KayFabe Smark Podcast. Welcome to the KayFabe Smark Podcast with Eric Todd and Brian Rampa, your smart mark source for news and opinions on the world of professional wrestling.
Hey, what's going on, guys? This is episode 42 of the KayFabe Smark Podcast. You are hanging out with us as we are recording this live on YouTube on a Friday. This is March 12th. If for our audio listeners, enjoy your weekend because you're going to be getting this for a Saturday morning surprise. So this week we're going to be talking about AEW, the Revolution, their pay-per-view, and dig into that and talk about that, and probably a little bit of the AEW Wednesday night show after their pay-per-view. But first, let's take care of a little bit of business up front. We got our social media, KayFabe Smark on TikTok, Instagram, and head on over to Facebook as well. And then also make sure you check us out on YouTube. As I just said, we go live weekly. Usually we go live on Thursdays, but we had a little technical difficulties as Eric's power went out in his area, so we had to pause. We are here on a Friday. We don't miss this thing. And as we were talking about Eric, let's see what he's got going on over in his world.
You know, same o. As some of you may know, I live in about buttfuck Michigan here in a little small town. So we had a power outage due to some high winds that affected a whole 300 people. And your boy was one of them 300. So I am personally responsible. I and the wind gods are personally responsible for your podcast being delayed a day. But hey, who gives a shit? We'll be back next Thursday.
It was windy as shit yesterday. It was pretty windy today, too, but it was windy yesterday here in Michigan.
Well, I work by a huge ski hill with a dirt pit behind it. So I had the garage door open so that I could have some sort of sunlight to work at my day job here, and just fucking tumbleweeds and dust storms rolling into my garage door there. It was a real treat.
A real treat. Well, before we dive into all the fun of AEW and the revolution that was, are we going to dig in and talk about some news, Mr. Eric Todd?
I think we got some news ready to go, Brian.
All right, well, let's go. From around the world, it is the KayFabe Smark News. Dun, 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 dun. All right, what do you got?
All right. We're going to start with the big news of the week. If you haven't watched AEW Revolution and you plan to, and you've had your head in the sand all week and you haven't heard, plug your earlobes right now. And Christian Cage is all elite. Christian Cage has signed with AEW. If you rewind to last week, I said Christian Cage was not an option. He had signed a contract with WWE, and boy, was I wrong.
I even threw him out and said he just debuted back at the Royal Rumble, and his boy Edge is going in for a world championship match. There's no way. How's he going to AEW? That's crazy talk. Well, we look like some silly geese.
Yeah, he embraced Edge. They just gave each other loving looks from across the ring, and you just thought that match made in heaven was back in effect, but no. Christian Cage is all elite, made his debut on Revolution, didn't say shit, just walked out and signed his contract, and we'll have more on that later.
We'll have more on that later.
Some minor news here. Go from major to minor here. AEW has filed a trademark for Paul White's character's name from The Waterboy, Captain Insano. So what the hell Tony Khan wants to do with that? Waterboy, a cult classic from the 90s. Paul White was just some stereotypical red, white, and blue wrestler named Captain Insano, and I guess we'll just have to stay tuned and see what the Khans have in store for us there with Captain Insano.
Captain Insano. I don't even know what to say on that piece. I didn't even see that one, so that was news to me, and I'm like, I don't even got a prediction of what they could do with it.
I say I left it open, and yeah, nothing to say.
Wow.
So I guess we'll just sit and wait and see. All right, and then moving on to our weekly Peacock news here, starting March 18th. Seems like we always got something to say about the Peacock, huh?
About the Peacock.
Starting March 18th, Peacock will begin rolling out WWE Network content. WWE Destination on Peacock will feature all the past WrestleManias up to WrestleMania 37 when that streams exclusively on Peacock. WWE will have a dedicated page on Peacock where fans can browse and access every pay-per-view in the last calendar year, so back through 2020. They'll be able to go through current and the most recent season episodes of the WWE original series, Broken Skull Sessions, Chronicle, things like that. And 2021 replays of Raw and SmackDown, but them boys don't air until 30 days after they originally air on Fox and USA respectively.
Yeah, that's the bummer. That's the bummer part there. I wish they could get something going with the Raw and SmackDown 24 hours, 48 hours. I know it pops up on Hulu, so I don't know if it's a contract with Hulu. So, and they do that Express Raw on Hulu, right? It's like an hour and a half, but you just miss like the intros. Like, who cares? I've heard the songs.
So if for some odd reason I get a chemical imbalance in my brain and I want to watch Raw or SmackDown, I'll just hop over to Hulu. I get Hulu for free for having Sprint as a cell phone provider. So
yeah, there you go.
I guess I'll just have to watch over there. But Peacock announced also they'll be continually adding WWE Network content, and they should have everything up from the WWE Network by SummerSlam. So they're going to keep working on that, and the WWE Network will be completely shut down April 4th.
Oh, so there'll be a nice overlap of when we will be missing like old content and stuff. Like some rollover content, it seems like, for a couple months.
April 4th, so a couple weeks.
No, I'm saying, but like...
Oh.
Well, all the stuff, it sounded like the way you said it, all the stuff won't be up until SummerSlam. Like, everything won't be rolled over, so it'll be like slowly rolled out. Is that what it sounds like?
Yeah, they're starting out with the WrestleManias and then original content, and then just slowly but surely putting the rest of it up. And so
it'll be 100%.
I don't think it's going to be too bad.
Yeah, be 100% up by the summer.
My biggest worry of this whole Peacock thing was that WWE content was going to be mixed into everything else. Because to be honest with you, Peacock's format on their app is just, it is trash. So there's going to be a whole WWE section, and hopefully it's laid out correctly. So it's, easily navigatable.
Well, that's good. And hopefully it rolls out. I like to watch the old stuff. So you want to keep, I want to make sure hopefully that gets up and over there with the quickness.
Yeah, I want to watch me some Mid-South and Smoky Mountain. That's my nighttime go to bed wrestling to watch. And then according to Dave Meltzer, Johnny Ace is back in the saddle as head of talent relations for WWE.
That's such a weird business over there, isn't it?
Isn't it?
Isn't it?
I mean, Bruce Pritchard has been in and out for more times than I can count. JR, same thing.
Like, he could be back tomorrow. JR could just walk away from AEW because WWE calls him and they'll have a better contract, and we'll buy out your AEW contract and we'll finish this. Okay, just go over there. Just got to go back home. Yeah. It's just so weird because like you come in, you're the guy, and then you get fired, and then you come back. You're just like, okay.
Well, yeah, look what they did with Bischoff. They brought Bischoff back to write
SmackDown.
Was it SmackDown? Yeah. And they were treating him like he was the savior to come save the writing team, and then just, all right, you're out.
See ya. You did how to go in 2 weeks. Didn't do good? All right, gotta go. Oh, cool. Thanks for letting me get situated.
I don't know. That's the only thing about WWE. The paychecks are probably nice, but hell, you never know when they're going to end.
Yeah.
Could end tomorrow.
Bischoff went and moved to Connecticut and bought a house for 2 weeks. If you're smart, live in a hotel, the thing seems a little steady.
And to be honest, I don't know what was so great about the first Johnny Ace era. I mean, Bryan Danielson was signed in that era. CM Punk was signed in that era, but it's not like I remember that the Johnny Ace era from 2004 to 2012 being spectacular by any means.
No, I mean the only Johnny Ace I remember is just the stupid TV character they gave him where he rode around in that stupid scooter and it was the people's the people power thing, yeah, in his voice, right? And getting dropped on his neck piece on a top rope over in Japan. That's why he can't talk.
Larynx Larry over here. Moving over to AEW news, Tony Khan replied to a Twitter user who reviews AEW content on YouTube, and YouTube said her videos were taken down manually for copyright strikes. Her name is @GirlOnCinema on Twitter, so she tweeted, "Here AEW, take my ad revenue. You obviously need it more than I do, but mark my words, this means war." Tony Khan.
And Tony responded?
So, Tony responded to that. He's a little snarky shit, too. Tony Khan replied, "Hi, just saw your tweet. I'm sorry this affected your revenue. Is it possible to review the aforementioned clips like these you've listed? Jericho/MJF press conference, Jade/Shaq versus Cody/Red Velvet, without illegally pirating videos that I budget millions per month to produce?"
Well, he makes a valid point.
This one, Brian.
Oh, he's right. It's his content.
Right, but isn't it fair use?
Nah,
if you're reviewing it,
she's making money off of it, though.
Yeah,
she's not
it's
paying
that fine line.
She's not paying anything back, right? So there's not paying any royalty rights to it. You know, it's not chipping Tony Khan off of her side of it. And I get it's all nickels and dimes, but there's got to be rules on it.
Yeah, I have a feeling this is very selective, though, because she seems very critical of AEW. I'm sure there's reviewers like our boy Michael, AEW News 1. I'm sure he's using clips from copyrighted AEW shows and giving them all the praise. And old Tony Khan's just, sitting in his office with a bottle of Lubriderm beating his meat.
Oh, great. Now we can't use any clips from AEW now because he done made fun of Tony. That'd be the best thing. I want him to come take my stuff down and make a big stink about it and respond to me on Twitter or Instagram. Come on, Tony, bring it. Talk about my content and my platform, what we're doing. You crazy bastard. Yeah, I get what you're saying, but if you're making cheddar off of it, that's a hard part, right? Taking somebody else's content. I know it's not a bootleg per se, because it's not the whole thing. So there should be, you'd think there'd be a way to work it in the middle, somewhere in the middle.
I mean, it is just YouTube, but it's like, I don't know, borderline journalism.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's never going to be a right answer. But Andrade, a.k.a. Mr. Charlotte Flair, has requested his release from WWE as of Monday. And WWE, as of the last I heard about this, has not granted his release. So
how
they're
weird
keeping him around.
How weird does that have to be back in the WWE, where we just talked about how weird it is to get hired, fired, rehired, fired for years and years on end. You go to but then now his future wife, planned to be wife, is gonna be she's the girl. She ain't going anywhere.
Right. She is got WWE in her blood.
Yeah, so she's not going to do. And then your husband's over there throwing a stink. Do you think they got to look at her and be like, calm your boy down over there? What's going on? Like, I don't know. It just seems weird.
Honestly don't know why WWE doesn't cut them loose, though, because they're not using them to any capacity. And to be honest, I don't think Tony Khan wants him over at AEW. Andrade stinks.
Andrade stinks. Stinks on ice.
I don't know why Charlotte Flair, probably in the top 5 female wrestlers in the world, just wants to be hooked up with a fucking jobber. But You see how that turned out for Bailey and her boyfriend who never got out of the indies?
Yeah.
Bailey had some boyfriend for years back in her indie circuit days, and she recently gave him the boot. Fuck out of here. Not gonna be mooching off me, fool.
Be mooching
I got
off
that
me?
Bailey money, motherfucker.
Got that Bailey money. What else we got going on in news? Anything else?
Nothing else. Pretty light news week there. So
nothing else. Yeah, I didn't. There wasn't.
Thankfully, we have a 4-hour fucking AEW show to review, so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, we'll put the hurry up on that. All right, well, that is your check-in for the KayFabe Smark news. Dun, 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 dun. All right. And since it went over so well last week, I'm going to do another little quick round of our underrated, overrated for Mr. Eric. I'd love his responses, so I've got a few questions. This is overrated, underrated, finishing moves edition.
Oh, let's see how this goes.
All right. First, underrated or overrated? The Destroyer, the Canadian Destroyer, the Panama Sunrise, whatever you want to call it. Overrated or underrated?
Oh, so overrated. It looks impressive. It's fun to watch, but it's so fucking stupid. Nobody believes that this thing is actually happening. It's just goofy. It is Cirque du Soleil. That's it.
Period. All right, next one up. Overrated, underrated, finishing moves edition. The power bomb, the jackknife power bomb, the Batista bomb, the last ride, whatever you want to call it. Overrated or underrated?
Completely underrated. Those things back in the day, if you got power bombed by Kevin Nash, Undertaker on the last ride, Batista bomb, you were done. Count the lights. It's a wrap. Go to the medical facility. Nowadays, any jackhole in any fucking match, you can have the intro match, the mid-card match, or the main event. They're doing 36 power bombs, and they just operate back up and body slam Shaquille O'Neal.
Oh, all right. Number 3 in our overrated, underrated finishing moves, the super kick.
Ooh, that one is underrated now for the same exact reason as the power bomb. When Shawn Michaels was doing the super kick, it was bam, lights out. And now just there's 43 super kicks a night anytime you turn on the TV. So it's just a regular ass move now. So it's a fantastic finishing move, but now it's just a regular move. So I would say underrated because the fucking mud show fucks just turned it into a regular move.
Underrated, overrated, the leg drop.
That's completely overrated. Well, who the hell uses a leg drop?
Wasn't that Hogan's? That's Hogan's big finishing move.
I know, but has anyone since used it?
No, I just wanted to throw you off with a weird one.
Yeah, that's a weird one. That's definitely overrated. So you get one size 15 boot to the face and somebody lays his leg across your face and that's a wrap. You're out. So yeah, that's a little overrated.
And then the last one here, underrated, overrated, the mandible claw.
Oh God, that one is overrated. All you gotta do is bite down. Take the motherfucker's fingers off. Did you know that it only takes the biting force of a baby carrot to bite somebody's fingers off, Brian?
There you go. I don't know how Britt Baker or Mick Foley have any fingers left.
Well, Mick Foley wore a sleeve. He
Oh,
wore a little mandible sleeve there.
Yes, and then Mr. Sacco for a while.
Yeah, Sacco's bulletproof.
Well, there you go. Underrated, overrated, finishing moves. That's all I had for you this week.
All right. And any more segments you're going to throw at me here, or do you want to
Nope.
just roll right into the revolution?
It's time to get revolutionized.
Man. So we start off hot on this one too. Where so you had the go home show. They start off with the main event, And Revolution, they start off with what should have been the main event, in my opinion. How do you feel about starting the pay-per-view with MJF and Chris Jericho versus the Young Bucks?
I thought it was. I don't know if it would have been the main event, but it should have been towards the bottom, towards the end of the card, right? Especially with the end of the card being that exploding nonsense that you were being built up for. That we needed to. I don't think it could have been last, but it could have been before that, or somewhere around there. But I was very surprised they started out hot though. AEW likes to do that though. Give you a nice big match right up front, kind of reel you in, hook you in.
Yeah. Well, we start off hot here with MJF, Chris Jericho going after the AEW Tag Team Championships versus the Young Bucks. And, man, this pay-per-view just started, and poor JR, man, his voice is just blown the fuck out.
Yeah, he was a little raspy. I don't know if it was from outside or if he was sick or all of the above, but he wasn't sounding so hot.
And then we get a little tidbit. I'm sure Excrement told us this one. He seems to have the real hot news takes. The Young Bucks attire was designed by one of their daughters, 8-year-old Courtney. And I think Courtney's been, I think she's secretly on the writing team for AEW too. Because these fucking shows seem like they're written by an 8-year-old.
They're a little bit all over the place. But what did you think of this match? What were you expecting from this match?
This thing was exactly what I expected. So you had Jericho and MJF basically tried to murder Mr. Buck Dad. And so you expect things to start off hot, and the Bucks come in and they're brawling with Jericho and MJF right off the bat. So at least we're starting off with some brawling. At least we get some feigned real emotion at this point. But then after the brawling, it's right back to the Bucks, same old shit. MJF and Jericho just playing right along, having to stand outside the ring. And seriously, the Bucks' timing was just shit on this pay-per-view. Jericho and MJF had to just stand there and wait for stereo topes from the Young Bucks, and stereo is the word of the night.
Stereo is the word of the night. Take a shot every time they say stereo.
Because right after the stereo topes, we get stereo sharpshooters.
Yeah.
There's no natural flow to this match whatsoever. Did you pick up on that too?
Oh, I was 100% removed from this match. We've discussed it. I like the Young Bucks. I like Chris Jericho, and I like MJF. So you think, hey, this is a win-win. How can you go wrong? They were not clicking.
No, and exactly what you just said is why I initially said this should be main event level match, just because of the star power in this match. You have your best heel in the company, MJF. You got your biggest actual superstar, Chris Jericho, and then you got what is regarded as the best tag team in the world, the Young Bucks. So you're expecting a barn burner, and this thing just was clunky as all hell. It seemed like there was a literal list, Jericho, a literal list of spots, and the Young Bucks were just checking them off one by one. We got to do this. We got to do that.
It's going through a grocery list. It was like check, move on. The flow, the flow and movements from Jericho and MJF didn't even seem to be clicking either. Like the whole thing was off. Everybody was not in their A game that night.
Yeah, there was nothing that just happened. Even the chops, that's usually like a filler spot. You get someone in the corner, you want to rest for a second, you just improvise some chops in there. Even the chops in this match were part of a bigger spot. And it's just, just so over-scripted. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what it was. even just peeling back and just looking at MJF and Jericho as a tag team didn't seem to work for me at all either.
No, they weren't. Their chemistry was big time off too. And just because the flow and the chemistry wasn't there, Everything was super obvious too. Even the easy spots, you could tell the cooperation. It was amateur. Amateur is the best way to do it. Is like a wrestling school match that shouldn't have been on TV.
Yeah, it was
which
a
is
rough.
sad to say with who's involved in this match.
Yeah, it was rough to watch. I didn't care for this one, to be honest with you, and I should have. And they gave it quite a bit of time, too, 17 minutes and 50 seconds.
17 minutes of this shit. So, and then you get your typical AEW thing where everyone's taking turns playing dead so that, you know, the respected Buck can get his shit in the middle of the ring. So you got Jericho playing dead here and there, MJF here and there playing dead, Bald Buck playing dead, Matt Buck playing dead.
Matt Buck.
So it's and stereo. Let's bring the stereo back, because at one point Jericho is just wandering around the ring like a fucking drunk sailor and just waiting. This poor guy, Jericho, 50 years old, has to just stumble around the ring for a solid 15-20 seconds waiting for the Bucks to get their shit together so that they can do stereo cross bodies.
Woo!
And there's more.
And there's more.
Speaking of super kicks, Brian.
Yes, we just we just
super
rated
kicks,
them. We just rated them underrated.
So
for being overused.
Right, because it should be a devastating move. So a super kick back in the day, shit, probably 10 years ago, 5 years ago, would take somebody the fuck out. Now, where is the logic in MJF being able to just stand up, not stumble, not fall down, through the Young Bucks just taking turns super kicking them? One super kick doesn't knock MJF down. Two super kicks doesn't knock MJF down. 8 super kicks does not take MJF down until they do a stereo super kick. And MJF finally falls down. I'm not inserting this stereo shit. This is all excrement. Our mask fucking mongoloid, Excalibur, just keeps talking about stereo cross body block, stereo tope suicida, stereo super kick. I wish somebody would bash him in the head with a fucking stereo. And the Botchamania spot of the night right here was, I can't remember which Buck this was. I was so out of this match at this point. It was the 2 brunettes versus the blonde and the guy with short hair. two fucking brunette cheerleaders who got ridden hard and put away wet. So one of them, little bastards, decides he's gonna slingshot himself over the top rope, and I imagine the spot was Jericho is supposed to catch his legs and put him in a lion tamer. But what ends up happening with this particular Buck is he somersaults over the top rope and just lands flat on his ass right in front of Jericho. And Jericho's just kind of looking at him like, fuck are you doing, bro? And then Jericho proceeds to grab his legs and put him in a lion tamer. So I imagine that was supposed to be one smooth movement. But 50-year-old fat ass Jericho, I don't think he's gonna be able to catch enough breath and push his hypertension out of the way to grab them legs and put somebody in a lion tamer.
You're killing me tonight.
So that was the Botchamania spot of the night right there. And either way, more shit happens. The Young Bucks hit the ugliest Meltzer driver I've ever seen in my life, and go ahead and pin Jericho for the win. This Meltzer driver, I had to rewind because the one Buck's holding Jericho like a tombstone, which I don't think Jericho was too excited to take. And then the other Buck jumps over the ropes, and he's supposed to drive old Jericho. He just sat down and kind of gently and lovingly grazed Chris Jericho's butt cheeks while while he fell to the mat, and then put him to bed. 1, 2, 3. Young Bucks retain their AEW Tag Team Championships.
Which I'm not upset about, and not because I do like the Young Bucks for the most part. I was not upset that they kept it because it just the mix of Jericho and MJF didn't make sense to me. So I didn't want to see the tag teams go that way, the titles go that way, and get kind of convoluted and lost again on two singles wrestlers becoming tag team champions. I'm never a fan of that so much. So I'm glad they kept the tag team championships on them for a little while longer. I'm fine with that.
Oh, by all means, Brian, you can mark this down because it's not very often that you're going to give me two teams and say who should have the AEW Tag Team Championships right now, and I'll choose the Young Bucks. But out of the Bucks having these things and Jericho and MJF holding the title belts, it's Young Bucks all the way. Just chemistry alone makes that decision.
Right. Yeah, they're actually a team, right? And they actually functioned as a team, where Jericho and MJF did not. But maybe that's long-term storytelling, Mr. Eric Todd. We'll move on.
We move on to our Tag Team Royale.
With cheese.
Precisely.
This thing was a clusterfuck from the word go.
Yeah, I only have about 4 lines of notes because how do you even pay attention to something in this thing?
I couldn't keep up with what the hell was happening.
What's the timestamp on it? You got it in front of you?
Yeah, 26:45.
Somehow
pushing
they
30 minutes.
They squeezed 26 minutes of just guys doing shit to each other. That's all it was. Honestly, I could have just took an ink pen and wrote, yeah, some guys did some shit.
But you know what? You know what ruined this for me?
Ruined this for you?
If you go back to last week's show, our show, the KayFabe Smark podcast, you can go over to YouTube or anywhere that you can find your podcast and look at our last episode. We did an underrated, overrated and one of the questions was underrated, overrated. Excuse me, underrated, overrated battle royal matches. And Eric underrated or overrated them because there's only 3 possible people in the entire match, and the rest of the time you sit there waiting for them to be in the finals, and you twiddle your thumbs waiting for that. Precisely what happened, because it was ruined for me, because after you really pointed out again, you go, oh, yeah, they're not going to win. Oh, look at this team. Look at that team. Look at this team. Bear Country. Like, they're not going to just put some random team over.
You mean you didn't think that the Dork Orders number 5 and 10 had a chance to win this thing?
You know what, though? I'll be honest with you. That Dark Order tip, the AEW's running hard with it, right? It's an AEW original, so they may have put them over, but some of the other jobbers that don't even make AEW Dynamite TV were not getting this win. AEW Dark tag teams were not getting this win in this Battle Royal, but
right.
I digress.
I don't even remember seeing Bear Country. Have they been on Dynamite?
They did like one Dynamite thing maybe, and it was, I think, again a convoluted thing, and then that was it. And then been in Dark over there.
Yeah, just convolute yourself and get lost in the sauce. Get the fuck out of this ring. You're not winning. But there's a couple mentionable spots in this thing. QT Marshall. Oh, I'm sorry. We start this thing out with Dustin Rhodes and QT Marshall and Dork Order 5 and 10. At one point in this match, QT eliminates the Gun Club, which, thank God for the announcers. I didn't know the Gun Club were part of
the Nightmare family.
Yeah, the Cody's little clique, the Nightmare family. But apparently they are. QT eliminates the Gun Club, just dips out of the ring, and spits at Dustin Rhodes. So we got a little heel turn from QT Marshall, of all people.
Yeah, again. Right?
Is he going to go hang out with the Butcher and the Blade so he can get his girlfriend back? Allie?
Yeah, that was a weird thing that didn't make whatever.
And one other thing that I had to mention in this here was You get some more dorks in there from the Dork Order. You do get the Dino Douche and Jungle Boy in there, which they were one of the top 3 contenders that you could actually count on. Well, you can't have Jungle Boy and Dino Douche in the ring without a little glizzy gobbler in your life. So the glizzy gobbler, Marco Stunt, makes his way to the ring. You got Pizzeria Uno on the apron for some weird ass reason. I don't know how he ended up over the top rope, but old Pizzeria Uno was just standing on the hardest part of the ring, waiting for Dino Douche to lawn dart Marco Stunt at him. Now, Marco Stunt was supposed to, not Enziguri. What's that fucking Sable thing that Sable used to do, where you head scissor somebody and do a backflip?
The Hurricane Rana?
Yes. Marco Stunt was supposed to Hurricanrana Pizzeria Uno. Uno just drops him off the ring apron. Takes about 2 or 3 seconds to get his bearings together and just sprints towards the ring post and falls off the edge of the ring.
I missed that one. I'll have to go back and pick that up. I missed that one.
If this just wasn't a video camera set up in a wrestling school, I don't know what the hell this thing was. But
well, this was a hot pile of garbage, in my opinion, the whole thing from top to bottom. But just take a step back for a second here. If we have any new listeners to the KayFabe Smark podcast here with us this week, it just clicked in my head this week, after 42 episodes now, Eric, that you especially, but the show in general, has so many new names for current wrestlers. People may be confused on who we're talking about sometimes, as we're talking about Dino Douche, Bald Buck, the Glizzy Gobbler.
No, to be honest, Brian, it should be pretty easy to figure out.
I was just laughing.
Which one of the Bucks that has a hairline that fucking
starts at his neck?
Starts at the back of his neck. Starts at the spinal cord.
It just made me laugh because that's how nervous we are about AEW yanking our shit down. We done changed the names to protect the innocent.
We're fantasy booking and changing the names. We got... You ordered...
At the Dork Order, you got Pizzeria Uno.
I can't... So you order Luchasaurus from Wish, and you end up with Dino Douche.
Dino Douche.
You order Evil Uno from Wish, and you receive Pizzeria Uno, and you order Marco Stunt, and you receive the Glizzy Gobbler. That's just how it goes.
That's how it goes, man. I was just after because there were so many of them in this match. It just clicked in my head. I go, "Oh my god!" Done change the names to everybody. But
now
we can continue.
There is a smidgen of light at the end of this tunnel, Brian, and just coincidentally, it's at the end of the match because the only teams left in this thing are the Dino Express and 2/3 of the Death Triangle. So you got Ray Phoenix left in the ring, and you've got Jungle Boy left in the ring. And these two put on a decent match. This should have been a standalone match. You could have started the show with Phoenix versus Jungle Boy, and I would have been all in on that. Show your sweater.
All puns intended.
Yeah,
Jungle Boy, Ray Phoenix. It was good. I mean, it's going to be Spot Fest. That's just you know what you're walking into. You know what I'm saying? You know the game you're playing, so that's fine. But it's entertaining, it's good, and they're clean spots, and I like these two guys, and I think that there could be used right, it's a good match.
Right, it's entertaining. So Jungle Boy knows how to work. And Phoenix is just entertaining. Sure, a lot of his strikes and shit miss by like a foot, but but it's actually out of the rest of this battle royale. This was the only part I was actually interested in, and unfortunately, I was pushing for Dino Douche and Jungle Boy to win this thing, but Ray Phoenix wins. So Ray Phoenix and Pac will be going on for those AEW Tag Team Championships.
Yeah, Rey Fenix and Pac, which is good. I think that's almost a better tag team than the Lucha Bros. Rey Fenix and
Lucha
Pac.
Bros. Oh, yeah.
Rey Fenix and
I
Penta.
I forgot about Cerro De Niro for a moment here.
You know, his brother. So Rey Fenix, and because I think with Pac and Rey Fenix, you get such the contrasting styles, and they move smoothly. You don't look at them as two singles wrestlers in that tag team thing, like right thrown together. Hey, we'll put these two guys together. They work together well as a decent team, but you get such contrasting styles that you're like, all right, cool. You get this from that guy, you get this, you can mix and match for what you get from who's in the ring. So it's not just all the same stuff. Where when it's the Lucha Bros, Cerro De Niro and Rey, it's just all go, flip, flip, flip.
It's the Mexa Bucks. It's the Young Bucks with a twist of luchadorism.
Lucha Bucks.
Yeah.
So yeah, there you go. I like it, and I wasn't disappointed with the ending. It was getting to the end was going to be the hard part.
Yeah, it was brutal. And, man, you follow that up with something that's, in my opinion, just as bad. We've got Hikaru Shida, your AEW Women's Champion, defending her title against I think it's Rio.
Rio, yeah.
Rio Nachomami.
Nacho Mama. Mizunami.
Mizunami, yeah. So we get a little background on these two. They fought 3 times for 3 draws, and the announcers couldn't wait to say, this could be a draw if they go the entire 60 minutes. If this match went 60 minutes, Brian, you'd be doing a solo podcast because I'd be swinging from a rope in my closet.
Yeah, I thought the time that they gave them was long enough, but if they pushed this to a 60-minute Broadway, they gave them 15 minutes and 10 seconds, according to the old Wikipedia, which was long enough.
This thing could go 60 minutes, and it could be another draw. Oh, no.
Good thing I watched it late, and I had time to fast forward to catch up to that if it did go 60 minutes.
Hikaru Shida is apparently... I know the Undertaker's not dead, but she's basically the Undertaker reincarnated because she took about 100 power moves in a row from Not Your Mommy here, and Not Your Mommy would probably tip the scale if I was standing on the other end. And Hikaru just fucking pops right up. These power moves don't keep her down. And yeah, so it's just this was a shit show, man.
I won't even say it was a shit show. I just didn't care.
Oh, I didn't care, but I forced myself to watch this. I saw that this thing was 3 hours and 42 minutes long, and I didn't even skip the women's match because that's how dedicated I am to this shit. And it just so 152 power moves from a 300-pound Japanese woman can't keep Shida and her 98 pounds down. But Sheeta's going to go ahead and do some power moves on Not Your Mommy too. And that was a pure embarrassment. Trying to see Sheeta do a Falcon Arrow on Not Your Mommy was it was just, I wanted to pull my eyeballs out, Brian. A-E-I-O-U. It was terrible.
I hated every second of this match. I didn't find one thing enjoyable about it. I hate to sit here and just be negative Nancy here on the internet and talk shit about wrestling, but man, when I enjoy it, I'm happy to talk about it, and when I'm not, I don't want to talk about it. And I don't even want to talk about it. I can't even remember shit that happened. So, but I just thought this stunk. I don't care about I just don't. Sheeta is not on TV enough for me to care.
For being champion.
For being champion and for me to care and get roped into anything, right? This Rio Mizunami, she might be great. They might be wonderful. I'm judging them on what I'm being exposed to. She was in this women's tournament where you could watch it somehow, where they had a half of a Japanese tournament. I didn't know how to watch. I got updated through the weeks on Dynamite of what was happening from people that I didn't know who they were. Wait, so they're like, Ryo Mizunami moves on. I go, oh, cool. The paper boy, the lady at the grocery store, I don't know who any of these people are. And Hikaru Shida, being the women's champion, she shows up about every Haley's Comet to have a match. And then so I'm like, cool. Do you imagine this was just get up and go to the bathroom match, and they gave it 15 minutes.
Yeah. This is a little side note. It's not related to this pay-per-view, but I wanted to see what Japanese women's wrestling is about, and I only lasted one video because I'm like, oh shit, here's a video of Toni Storm, which, as you could tell if you go a couple episodes back, I'm a huge fan of Toni Storm. I'm like, oh, here's a Japanese match with Toni Storm involved with some random Japanese girl. It appears to be in a wrestling ring in an apartment. Toni Storm comes out just dressed like a guy, and he is faking a guy's voice and has a painted on mustache. The Japanese girl, God knows who the hell she is. And they played rock, paper, scissors. That was the match. Toni Storm won. Just in case you were wondering.
Was it best 2 out of 3?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Cool.
So yeah, they drew it out a little bit. So yeah. Anyway, back to this fucking back to this pile of vomit. They exchanged moves for a while, and Shida ends up getting the pin on Nachimami and retains, and I think she's held the belt for like 300 days by now. So she's rounded on a year for being the AEW Women's Champion.
Cool.
And yeah, and then we get a run-in.
Of course.
We get Nyla Rose comes down and starts some shit with Vicky Guerrero. Britt Baker and Maki Ito come down. And Reba comes down. And they're just attacking everybody. Just not your mommy and Shida here. So the heels come in and beat everyone up. And just if I thought I couldn't care less about this match, I cared even less once all these fucks started running in.
Yeah, then Thunder Rosa came in at the end, didn't she?
Oh.
Chased everybody out.
I'm sorry. You got 35 women heels in the ring, including Nyla Rose, who's about 6'8". It's basically Big Show in a wig. Thunder Rosa comes out and just scares them all the way. They scatter like roaches when you turn on the light.
Well, you remember, Eric, now in pure KayFabe Smark podcast fashion, your boy Brian and Mr. Eric Todd did not watch the pre-show. So in the pre-show, you had Dr. Britt Baker and how do you say that other chick's name? The Japanese one with Britt Baker there that you just said?
Maki Ito.
Maki Ito. So you got Dr. Britt Baker or Maki Ito with Rebel. They took on Riho and Thunder Rosa. And they defeated Riho and Thunder Rosa. So there you go. That was some long-term storytelling from the pre-show that they were mad about, Eric. Thunder Rosa was mad that she got beat by those two.
Well, that makes it even worse. Thunder Rosa just lost on the pre-show, and she comes out and scares 56 heels out of the ring.
Yeah, I don't know. I just had to throw that in there because I know
mad.
I just had to throw it in there because I know we missed the pre-show and didn't even talk about it. So now we talked about it. Can't say we didn't cover it. They gave that match 14 minutes, Eric, the pre-show.
Yeah, and I bet old Meltzer gave it 4.5 stars.
Oh God.
And then we go from this. We go from Rio Not Your Mommy right down to Alex Marvez hanging out in the back with Schmuck Taylor and Orange Cassidy. And we're just on a roll at this point, man. Apparently, Marvez wants to know what old Schmucky and Orange have to say about their match coming up with Kip and Miro. And Kip and Miro waste no time, come out and attack both of them. And Orange Cassidy disappears into the abyss. They drag Schmuck Taylor out to the ring, beat the living shit out of him. Miro wants Schmuck to come back and be his butler for life, or something to that effect.
Which is
Schmuck Taylor basically tells him to go eat a dick and says to ring the bell, and he's ready to do a handicap match against Kip and Miro here.
Which is a weird, like, I get it. It's pro wrestling. It's not real. Okay, we're past that, right? We'll move past that. Like, hey, Eric, come be my butler. That's how much I like you. Like, why is that supposed to be enticing at all?
Is that a selling point? I get
Yeah,
to be your
like,
butler?
ooh, cool. I get to come butler for you. Like, did he have such a good time? Like, he didn't even, like, it doesn't even make any sense.
Was he even a good butler?
Yeah.
Because he didn't seem very enthusiastic on national TV.
He handcuffed you to a ring. Like, he was a shitty butler. I don't know.
I think shitty's an understatement. Underrated.
Underrated, overrated. It just sucks. Like, it just doesn't make any sense why you would have it. I had with a grain of salt, higher expectations for this match than because I was not. It just seemed like something that had the possibility of delivering some type of entertainment and everything. I didn't think it was a bad match, to be honest with you. I thought it was, for who you have in the ring and what's going on. Thought we did pretty good. But the thing that irritated me about this with AEW is they only gave this match like 7 minutes. So you give this 4-man tag team, tag team match. Like, the only good thing you have for that is they kept the moves. They had to be on point and moving fast and get everything in, and then it left. So maybe it was good that it was only 7 minutes. It left before the stink got in your mouth.
So, I don't know how you thought at all this was a good match. This podcast seems like I am just targeting AEW. I'm just being honest at this point.
I guess for what I'm saying is I lowered my standards for AEW in a tag team match and said, for who's in the ring and what can happen. You got Miro in there. You got Kip Sabian. It can be a decent little something fun to watch.
All right, so we're gonna rewind this back a couple months here. When Rusev left WWE and Miro signed with AEW, before he wrestled one match, before he wore his Mickey Mouse t-shirt and opened his fat mouth, what did you expect from the Miro character?
Well, I guess I just expected a move over of Rusev in a sense.
A monster?
Yeah, the same but different Rusev, right? But
right. Now, fast forward to Revolution here. So, Orange Cassidy is MIA, as I previously stated. Kip Sabian and Miro, a.k.a. Rusev, are beating the living shit out of Schmuck Taylor here. And Schmuck proceeds to make a comeback after getting the shit kicked out of him for 5 of those 7 minutes. And then Orange Cassidy gets in the mix. And Orange Cassidy has to do the pocket spot and the fake kicks with Miro too.
Of course.
And at this point, this is where it was a wrap. He gets his spot in, his fake kicks, stick his hands in his pockets, proceeds to make Miro look like a buffoon and a pussy. Because Miro's a buffoon because he just sits there and takes the fake kicks. And when he does decide to attack Cassidy, he just completely misses. And Cassidy basically kicks the shit out of him for a solid 2 minutes. Orange Cassidy, 140 pounds soaking wet, kicking the shit out of this Eastern European fucking Goliath.
You're correct.
Yeah.
No. Like, I guess from what I'm coming off with was saying, I guess I just more or less, I kind of put my foot in my mouth, but what I was getting at is I like the ending of it, that it ended properly in my eyes. So that made me remember that I like the match. Now, you want to break down a lot of it. I thought it could have been done a lot different. Yeah, there's no question about that. For one, they didn't give him a lot of time. For two, they started it out in chaos. And then
right.
And then they get... It's that no sell. Like, you can have, like, Miro's not Superman. He can get beat up, but right, it should have been a 2-on-1 the other way.
At least equal out the body weight. your two baby faces together probably weigh a Miro.
So take out Kip and then have Miro go in and, blah, blah, blah. So that could have been done different, but I was nervous for a second, though, it was going to go the wrong way and end when it just seemed that way. And I was like, Miro's selling a lot for Cassidy. And then luckily he just said, fuck this.
Yeah, I accidentally skipped over a point here where Cassidy comes out when he decides to make his entrance into the ring. He gives the orange punch to Miro from the ramp. Miro is out. It's almost like he got super kicked by Shawn Michaels or leg dropped by Hulk Hogan. An orange punch from Orange Cassidy knocks Miro out cold. And we can't just leave well enough alone at that one and just try and move on from that hazardous material. Oh, Tony Schiavone has to chime in and say, man, the orange punch just took out the big guy. Just drive the point home, Schiavone. Miro's a pussy. Thank God he got in that camel clutch at the end of the match.
I was mad at that camel clutch for about 3 seconds when he had his arms fully extended, right? So he had it in, so he had the arms over his thighs, with the camel clutch, and he put his arms out where he's supposed to be cranking back on the chin. But
right.
He had like his biceps were at his ears, and I'm going, wow, he's got to tighten that thing up, like it's not doing anything. And then all of a sudden, he just explodes back, and from that just pulls back on the chin. You're going, oh, that would hurt. Like,
yeah,
that would hurt. Like, okay, so he wasn't like, sometimes you see John Cena put that STF in, and it's like he's got his arms up around the guy's face and the legs locked up, and you're going, the guy can like lift his head in and out. It's supposed to be cinched in there on the chin. I thought he was doing a bad version of that, and luckily he brought it back home for me.
He brought it home and made him tap. Yeah, I don't know. We get a little storytelling in this one where Miro shoves Cassidy at some point and knocks Penelope Ford off of the apron. So I imagine we're going to get a little heat between Kip Sabian and Miro at this point. But
it's AEW. They could
at this
forget
point,
about
who
it.
cares? Actually, yeah, there's a solid 4 days between between shows here. That storyline's probably long gone.
Now, the only thing that I want to make sure that I just keep getting across, that I want to get across, is I get that there's going to be big guys versus small guys. There's going to be David versus Goliath, if you will, style matches. There's going to be, because it's not everybody's as big as Miro, right? You're not going to have big, there's big guys, but especially the AEW roster is not that. So you have to be creative in your storytelling. So I don't want it to always seem like that I think that it should go the obvious way, right? I think Miro has to lose at some points too, but I think that it has to be done correctly. So when it's just Miro getting beat up, when it doesn't seem right, now if Miro got beat up and they cheated, like you can do these things to get over. Like I said, we bought and believed in that Rey Mysterio Big Show match back. It was a WrestleMania, I believe. It made sense.
Yeah, I was going to chime in also Brock Lesnar and Eddie Guerrero. Brock Lesnar was pissed that he was scheduled to job that match, to job Eddie Guerrero. He's too small. He's a mid-carder. You and I have no problem believing that, at least back in that era, Eddie Guerrero could take out Brock Lesnar under the right circumstances. But Orange Cassidy is fucking giving Miro stone cold stunners at this point.
Right, that's what I'm getting at. I just want to iterate that it doesn't have to be just because he's big he has to win. I think it just has to be done properly. It was a tag match, so you can utilize a tag team partner and get things done. Anyways, I digress. It's not always, doesn't have to always be. Anyways, we'll continue. We'll bitch about it more.
It can't always be, yeah, I know what you're saying here. Big guy's not always going to win, but it has to be done right, and this wasn't done right. You basically, yeah. So we're going to move on from that. That got me off clusterfucked. And we get more Marvez, Brian. We could always use a little more Marvez.
Oh, always use Marvez in our life. I like a little Marvez because he shakes it up. You never know what this dumb bastard's going to say.
Well, he's hanging out with MJF and Jericho, and he doesn't pull the punches. Marvez tells him they failed, and wants to know what they think of their failure in their earlier match against the Young Bucks.
Which, to be honest with you, in AEW writing, it's finally a decent question that Marvez asked because they did lose. They did fail. The matches, they didn't have the titles, and Jericho somehow is turning it around saying, "You think we failed?"
But usually Marvez shits his pants if you look at him sideways, and he's just he's asking the hot questions to the two of the biggest heels in the company. And so, yeah, I guess you got to give it to him.
Got to give it to him. Hey, you guys suck. You lost. What's the big deal?
But MJF say that there needs to be change in the inner circle, and that they're going to have a war room meeting.
They always got to name everything. They just can't say we're going to take care of this on Dynamite. Why can't they just say that?
They have to call it a war room meeting that they're going to have in the middle of the ring on Dynamite on national TV in front of 1,000 fans or whatever.
Which is different than the debate that they had, and different than the other inner circle meeting that they had when they were going to kick somebody out. Like, they all gave the finger. It's always got to be a name.
I don't know. Just when somebody says we're having a war room meeting, I assume it's a private meeting. But no, not in AEW. But they agree change needs to happen. And as we move throughout the night, we'll find out that change does indeed happen in the inner circle.
It does. Teaser, pleaser. Moving on to Hangman Adam Page and Big Money Matt.
We got Big Money Matt and Adam Page in the big money match. For the winner of this match gets their opponent's first quarter earnings.
Dun, 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 dun. Who do you think they're making fun of with Big Money Matt? Like, what character? Who are they? Like, it's got to be a jab at somebody, right? Is this like are they making fun of Vince? Do you think it's Vince McMahon is like Big Money Vince, and I take 30%, and because he's like, is it, or do you think it's just some made up character? It seems so parody to me. I just can't put my finger on it.
It's so dull that it doesn't seem original. It seems like it has to be a parody of somebody, but the only person it would make sense to be a parody of would be Vince. Because he wants a cut of everything.
Right. The whole you can do your Twitch streams and your YouTube this, and you can keep your income and blah blah blah, and then he took 30% and all that. So I just couldn't figure out what was going on with that. Anyways, we'll move on. Hangman Adam Page, Matt Hardy. This match had all the possibilities in the world.
Yeah. To be honest, it was great to actually, after everything we've went through and all the stress and just uncertainness we went through in the past, God knows how long, we actually get a couple of professionals in the ring at this point.
Right. Even though Matt Hardy wants to be goofy and play this weird character, he can still work in the ring.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And he can work as a heel. He is working Adam Page's hand to the bone. He is Page is selling the shit out of this injury, and Hardy does not let up on it. He's slamming it against ring posts. He's kicking it. He's stomping it. He's basically trying to shatter Adam Page's hand, and that's how you get heat. He might have overdid it a little bit, but that's how you get heat. You work an injury on the babyface.
It is. I thought this was pretty good. I guess we'll just keep going. We'll go with the timeline here, so it'll pop up. Go ahead. What's some of the next stuff that happened here?
So Hardy pretty much dominates the first portion of this match, mainly by working Page's hand, as previously stated. Page gets a little bit of a comeback here, and we do get a little AEW-ness in this. Page's comeback included a moonsault off of the top rope to the outside onto Hardy. So, yeah, we had to get a catch me spot in there, but I don't know. When it's Adam Page and Matt Hardy, it doesn't look as goofy as when there's an underneath AEW talent doing it.
And it makes sense, too, that you didn't have to have 15 guys gathered in a corner shoulder to shoulder, as we've already discussed numerous times.
Right. When it's one guy, it's a little more believable and a little more dangerous, I guess, to be honest. Page could have fucked himself up.
And if the timing's good, it doesn't look like everybody's all planned and ready to go. So they keep it moving.
Right. So as I stated, Before, we've got two professionals in the ring doing their thing. Paige hits the dead eye on Big Money Matt Hardy here, and cue in the circus, Brian, because here comes Private Party to distract our favorite referee Rick Knox here.
Oh, Ricky Knox. This is the part where I got nervous that we were going to go down the toilet bowl. That I was waiting for you to bring it up, that I really wanted to talk about, because I didn't like, as soon as I saw Private Party come out, I wasn't excited. But then I was okay with it for a minute because they weren't really getting involved. They were just playing that little dirty heels, right? We got up in the ring, they distracted Adam Page, and they got down. Just walked away. We're not doing nothing. And then they did on the other side. So that was not bad for me. I wasn't mad at that. You know, they're giving the characters a little depth finally of Private Party and not just being Private Party and doing whatever it is that they did, you know, the silly string. Woohoo! So it was just that was fine. They're creating that heel, putting him over his heels. So I was okay with it until I just didn't want to see anybody get involved. I just wanted to see a match. No nonsense.
Right. You got two guys in the ring who can put on a hell of a match together, and then you just have to mix in the nuts. And at this point, you get a little more goofiness here. Matt Hardy hits Adam Page with the side effect and the twist of fate back to back. Near fall, Page kicks out. And then bring in the clowns, Brian, because here comes the Dork Order to scare off Private Party.
Again, I can stick with that. It's the Dark Order is the Dark Order. We'll take them for what they are these days. But they didn't get all this nonsense. Never really affected the match itself. So I was okay with a little bit of sideshow for the main circus in the center.
Yeah, precisely. Sideshow, the perfect adjective for this thing. So yeah, you just got your little shit over there, but they do what they do. Adam Page finally hits the buckshot lariat on old Matt Hardy here, and he's the winner of this match. And I want to see Matt Hardy come out with a bright green envelope containing his first quarter earnings with Adam Page written on it in marker.
Don't forget here, now Adam Page was caught and received because he was going to fall by the Dark Order.
Oh, yes.
They stood him up.
How could I leave that out?
They stood him up, back up, and they helped him up. And then it was a big celebration in the ring with beers and such for the Dark Order. And Adam Page.
That spot where the Dark Order came out, scared off Private Party, and caught Adam Page from hitting the ground was what they call in a comedy world a callback to when whatever battle royal bullshit they were doing at some other show where Adam Page almost got eliminated and the Dark Order caught him, stood him up, and got him back in the match. So yeah, this was a callback to that. Adam Page feels he owes at least part of his victory to the Dark Order. They all get into the ring, group hug, man love, celebration.
The match I thought was good. You put it all in there. You sprinkle a little bit of the sideshow on the outside, but it didn't affect the match. It wasn't like they were all running through the ring and Rick Knox was just standing there putting his hands on his head and looking confused. Some nonsense went on the outside of the ring, but the two competitors stayed inside the ring. All was fine with me. It actually worked out fine. I'm not saying we're going down instant classic, like write it in the history books, but it made sense.
For this show, this match was good. It was a solid match. We can leave it at that.
Right.
Because after that, we're moving into the Revolution ladder match with a Sonic the Hedgehog gold ring hanging from a belt.
The fact that they had to make it the brass ring, reach for the brass ring, it had to be obnoxiously huge, right? Otherwise, if it was a literal ring, like a wedding ring hanging from like off a string, like you'd be like, what are they reaching for? I don't know what they're getting at. So I think JR said it looked like a life preserver.
Jim Cornette said it looked like one of them donuts that you sit on when you get hemorrhoids.
It was a little goofy.
Yeah, I instantly, my son and I both was like, what is a Sonic the Hedgehog? It looked just like a Sonic ring.
Yes, now I can't unsee that.
A little history on the brass ring here, Brian. I did some copy and paste work. The brass ring is a metaphor coined by Vince McMahon. So this was a little shot at Vince here for wrestlers who have managed to propel themselves to the top of the WWE landscape, not by playing politics, by just their own hard work, busting their ass. So, i.e., a Daniel Bryan, a Kofi Kingston, something like that.
Well, there you go. Reach for the brass ring, kid. And, of course, Cody Rhodes has to be involved because it's taking a shot at WWE. Let it go, Cody. You're giving yourself diarrhea.
Yes, the winner of this match, as we should have stated earlier, gets a TNT title shot against presumably Darby Allin. And we have Max Caster from the rap group. I forget their name.
Acclaim.
We get, the Acclaimed. We get Lance Archer with Jake the Snake Roberts, Scorpio Sky, who's slowly turning heel, Penta Cerro De Niro, and Cody Rhodes officially in this match. And then a little later on, we have a little surprise entrant.
Yeah. Big surprise. And
So,
what'd you think of this? I thought it was a ladder match.
it was what it was. One thing that really stuck out to me, it didn't really have to do with the performers in the match, but we see Jade Cargill in the audience here. Now, if you remember correctly, just a few days previously, Jade Cargill and Shaquille O'Neal had a beat-down match against Cody Rhodes and Red Velvet. They were mortal enemies. They were trying to kill each other in this match. But who is cheering Cody Rhodes on when he's making his entrance into the ring? Who is his biggest cheerleader, yelling and screaming and clapping? None other than
Jade Cargill.
Jade Cargill.
She forgets.
Goes from within 4 days, she's trying to kill Cody, and now she's his biggest fan.
Yeah, she broke his wife's arm. She fought him in a wrestling match with Shaquille O'Neal. She brought a monster to kill him, and now she's cheering him. And they only lasted real quick, and then they cut to Red Velvet, who was cheering as well, which made sense.
But whatever cameraman decided to zoom in on Jade cheering Cody on needs to be fired and lit on fire.
The cameraman, you know what? No, not the cameraman. The producer in the back who said switch to that camera. That makes sense. Jade Cargill needs to be hit for not remembering what is happening in professional wrestling, that she's a character and that she's a part of something and she's a heel and you're a heel at all times. You know, when they had MJF standing on the outside when he was put on the cold list there for a while in AEW, it seemed like, and he was in watching the audience, you know, from in the ring there, from around the ring. Right. He kept his character up, giving guys the finger, cold shouldering them.
Not old Jade Cargill. You take off your leotard and your knee pads, and you're just a fan.
Just a fan. A big fan of Cody at that.
Yeah. So I digress. We get our surprise entrant a little bit into this match, and I felt like a fucking owl at this point.
Who?
Because when they introduced Ethan Page.
More pages.
Who the fuck is this?
He was in our list.
Never heard of this Ethan Page fella.
He was in our list last week when we talked about potential big signees to AEW. That was the Big Show's tease when we were going through the potential people that were listed on the internet. Ethan Page was listed as that, the big signee, but we didn't think it would be him that they were talking about in this particular instance, as they were listed also as being a Hall of Fame worthy competitor. So Ethan Page, I don't even know much about the guy. He did a little stint in NXT, I believe, and got the old bootski, and here he is over here in AEW.
Yeah, so I'm not shitting on the guy. I just never heard of him, and I thought he was probably the best performer in this match. He did pretty well, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I thought Ethan was...
It was just dandy, but it was they waited till the end, and he comes out. It's like, whoa, and you're like, Who?
Now,
A little
Brian.
overrated.
A little overrated, definitely. You should save that till next week. So, do you think at some point in AEW, I made these teams just because of heels and baby faces? Do you think we will get Ethan Page and Brian Cage versus Christian Cage and Adam Page in a Rage in the Cage match?
I mean, it has to now. I mean, it's in the ether.
Why wouldn't we?
You've already spoke it into the universe. You've spoken it into existence. It's Tony Khan just sat up. He's actually asleep at home, and he was going, Rage in the Cage. Adam Page, Brian Cage, Christian Cage, Ethan Page. Turn the page.
Page and Cage. Turn the page, Tony. Cage and Page versus Page and Cage in a cage.
And we'll get Bob
That's
Seger.
all the rage.
We'll get Bob Seger to sing "Turn the Page."
It's gonna happen. Mark my words.
And the referee will be Diamond Dallas Page.
Why not? He can. This match will take center stage. You don't want any ghosts in the arena, so we better burn some sage. And they're going to really draw some money, so we better give them a decent wage.
Making my head itch. It's so good.
Well, I think I'm out of rhymes at this point. I'm not exactly Eminem. Can't rhyme orange with door hinge.
Take it you've been on old Instagram lately. That's gone viral. Oh,
But,
so yes, this ladder match, bunch of nonsense. We've got Scorpio Sky. Did we already go through the guys? You already named them
Yeah,
all,
we
right?
went through the guys.
Yeah, Lance Archer. Poor Lance Archer.
Poor Lance Archer. At one point, he looks like $1 million. He's in there with the ladder, just cleaning house, fucking everybody up. But man, if he doesn't get egg on his face at least once a week,
yeah, I don't
I'm
know what
bummed for him.
I don't know what he's supposed to do. So again, watching this is very similar to the Royal Rumble Battle Royal style matches that we were speaking about earlier, right? You look and you go,
Right.
you, and you, and you, not it. You and you, and you know, at this point, there's not that many, so maybe you can probably cut this just in half, right? You got Scorpio Sky, Cody Rhodes, Penta, Lance, Max Caster, and Ethan Page. So sorry, Max and Ethan, you're off the list, right? Easily cut from the top. Then you look at the remaining four, and you got to go, sorry, Penta, you've been a tag team wrestler.
Right.
You're not the guy now. So you can come down to theirs. And then you're really looking at Scorpio, Cody, and Penta. And then you look, or Scorpio, Cody, and Lance. And then you look at that and think about it, and you go, well, it's really Scorpio and Lance because Cody doesn't like to win.
Right. Cody loves to lose.
So
Surprised Vince didn't keep him on longer.
yeah, the son of a bitch loves to lose. All you had to do is give him a title once, and he'll never be your champion. He doesn't want to be his own company's champion, and he held their version of the Intercontinental Championship for about 8 minutes, and nobody gives a shit. So you got the possibility of Scorpio Sky, Lance Archer, and then just knowing that how Lance Archer came into this with, or not Lance Archer, my apologies. Scorpio Sky came into this last week with talking so much shit at commentary. You knew you just had he had a little feather in his cap. That's all you thought the whole time. So just watching it and not even seeing the match, you can just kind of make these assumptions on how things will roll.
Well, you saw the momentum of Scorpio Sky turning, and the only thing that made sense to keep that momentum moving and to really put it into drive was to have him win this match. So if I was a betting man, I would have put my money on Scorpio for sure.
100%. Now, is there any spots in here you want to speak about?
The Pentasero Dinero Canadian Destroyer on Cody Rhodes through that bridge ladder. That was I don't know if these are gimmicked ass ladders because it seems like they're climbing on them, but these ladders just seem to break like Ritz crackers when people get slammed on them.
But that one didn't break.
Oh, that one didn't break. That was later in the match.
Later in the match, which made me think
Cody-
that Should have been
Cody's
gimmicked.
back probably broke.
Yeah. Like, and Penta took a big chunk of that, too. I don't think they should have showed the replay of that as much as they did, from the angles that they did. You just go, well, okay, you took a destroyer, so we already don't understand how this move works.
Right.
You watch it, and you just go, I don't understand how that momentum is transferred like that. But nonetheless, and then you watch it, and you go, well, he took care of his buddy in the ring, which makes sense. We know that, But then you watch it, and you go, well, Cody Rhodes didn't even get hurt. Penta's the one that should have got hurt.
But Cody sells the shit out of it to the point where he has to be helped to the back up the ramp, and he just cannot continue, Brian.
Cannot continue. And that's what the other thing, I couldn't figure out if he was really hurt or what we were doing there for a minute. He did have me thinking, just because the way that they handled it. But then they kept him at that entryway in the tubes for too long that you could see him, and then I knew it was not a gimmick. And then I knew it was a gimmick, and he was coming back eventually.
Yeah, if he was really hurt, they would have at least did something similar to when Matt Hardy almost broke his skull in half, and the doctors came out.
Yeah,
but wouldn't it be AEW if we didn't get a contrived ladder spot here? We've got Caster and Scorpio fighting on top of the ladders, and hell, why not have Ethan Page and Lance Archer join them so that we can have 4 people on top of the ladders all touching the golden donut all at the same time.
All touching the golden donut. Yeah. Now, here again, I don't want to, you can have multiple people in ladder matches. We can go back to any TLC match. I'm talking original TLC matches, from the WrestleMania there before it was his own pay-per-view. The actual TLC matches with Edge and Christian and the Dudleys and
T-Boz, Left Eye, and Chili.
Yeah. All them and the Hardys. And, there's multiple guys doing big things on ladders and big spots and doing that. But, again, you have to do it right and put on a show. When you're waiting for your spots to happen, that's when it doesn't make sense. When it seems like, I was waiting for you to go. So you just stood there like an idiot? Like you're in a wrestling match. You at least got to throw punches, right? And as you're hitting them going, you got to get your spot, like do something. So some of these were just like, get up there and take your turns in these ladder spots and these, quote, fights at the top of ladders.
So you got all 4 of these guys up there rubbing the donut. And just as you stated, they're just waiting for the spot to happen. That's where Penta Cerro De Niro knocks them all down. And now you got Penta Cerro De Niro and Scorpio Sky at the top of the ladder fighting over their donut.
Fighting over the donut. They are not on the keto. They are fighting for that big golden donut.
And then they somehow end up off the ladder. And now we've got Max Caster and Ethan Page at the top of the ladder. And Max Caster, this was put together just for this spot. You got Caster power bombing Ethan Page.
Underrated, by the way.
Ladder. Yeah. Power bomb should be way more devastating. You get Scorpio Sky, frog splashing onto Max Caster on a ladder. Now that was pretty brutal looking.
Yes. Very good. That was a very good spot.
Yeah.
Then at some point, too, you had Max Caster call out that goofy guy from TH3.
Oh, yeah. The Boombox boy.
Yeah.
Well, the Boombox is Max Caster's, but he's got his goofy dancing friend from TH2 or whatever.
Whatever it is. And he calls for that, and then Goofy 10 puts a stop to it because he got hit with it on Wednesday. So he had that little stupid spot that had to get their continue the storyline. Hey, God bless. I'll give it to AEW. They remembered a storyline from Wednesday and basically wrapped it up on Sunday. So, hey, it was dumb and it didn't really need to be there, but they at least wrapped up a storyline. Now, a big storyline, the Inner Circle might not exist on Wednesday when we come back to Dynamite. It just might be a wrap.
But you got to remember the Boombox. Speaking of wrap,
I thought that this had too much bullshit at the top of the ladders, fiddle farting around from 4 rungs down, trying to reach for the stupid donut. You can't
Hat on a hat, Brian.
Huh?
Hat on a hat.
Hat on a
The
hat.
ladder match is already gimmicky enough, and they gimmicked the fuck out of this match.
Well, just the pretend reaching, like I don't like it at all, no matter what promotion you put it in. When they stop two rungs up and they're reaching, like you can't reach that.
At some point, Brian, this is near the beginning of the match, so I knew it couldn't have been over. But at some point in this match, Penta Cerro Dinero is the only guy in the ring. Now, any match you see, he is moving at 93 miles an hour at all times, flying up ropes, treating these springy ass cables like stairs,
Right.
up a side, down a side, flying across the ring. Da 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 da. He is the only guy in the ring, and he can't just set up a ladder and fly up the ladder and grab his donut.
Same thing. Lance Archer had a moment in the match where he had cleared house, grabbed a ladder, and then was the only guy in the ring, and then went outside the ring and pulled in, I want to say Penta, back into the ring, and then beat him up with the ladder.
I noticed that too. Nobody wants to win this shit.
And I get that there's
nobody wants to win. That's how it's coming across.
You know, it's funny because we go back and forth and we kind of backtalk ourselves sometimes here, Eric, and it sounds like it at least, where we'll say the first match, the Young Bucks and Inner Circle, was too scripted. Boom, 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 boom. They had to get their spots and stuff in, right? We're going, there was no flow to it. But then in this match, we're going, it was just free-for-all, and nobody was getting their stuff in. There was no flow to it. But I think there can be a list of things that have to get done, but there was no connecting parts in the first match that connected the spots. And all this was, in this ladder match, was all the connection spots with nobody knowing what to do in between.
Yeah, no leadership in that ring.
Right, so there should have been a lot, like, just go, at any point, if you find yourself standing there because somebody stumbles and is out of breath, start climbing up the ladder.
Just improvise.
And improvise from there. We'll figure it out. Somebody will get in and knock the ladder down. Arn Anderson will run in. We'll figure it out. The winner's winning it, but we can't just stand there, because why wouldn't you climb the ladder? There's no connections to the flows is the problem we're having. Either way.
No logic.
We continue. Again,
another spot.
Go ahead.
Lance Archer giving a good old knee strike to Scorpio Sky off the top rope, and Scorpio Sky goes through a ladder.
Yes, we finally had a ladder break.
Yes, old cracker ladder.
The old painted black wooden ladder.
Yeah. This is where Cody makes his comeback, and he goes right after Ethan Page. So that's at this point you're thinking, maybe Cody.
Cody was always a possibility in my head.
He hates to win, but everybody in this match hates to win, apparently.
Yeah, he hates to win, but you know what? What Cody would love to do is win a big match and lose it for the title.
Now, Brian,
No.
I gotta adjust myself. Max Caster. Penta Cerro Dinero.
Cerro Dinero. Penta zero money.
They, at some point, are at the top of this ladder. Penta does his normal thing, his call sign, Sado Mato, and puts the sign in Max Caster's face. Max Caster just starts kissing his hand softly and passionately out of nowhere.
I don't know
I'm
what.
not making this shit up, people. Somebody put it on YouTube. Hopefully Khan doesn't strike it down. But Max Caster was making out with Cerro Dinero's hand.
Khan! It's like Star Trek. Yeah, I don't know what that was supposed to be. I don't know if he was supposed to be biting his hand. And
it was so soft and loving.
I'm not positive what happens either, but this is a COVID world. You need to keep people's hands out of your mouth. You're not even supposed to put your own hands in your mouth.
Oh, you got to at least wash them and sing happy birthday before you're eating finger foods
twice.
Before you're eating pigs in a blanket.
That part I just sat there and went, I don't know what we're watching. I don't know what's happening anymore.
Apparently AEW has a deal with the Bravo network, and we'll just move on from there. Now Scorpio and Cody are battling on the ladder. Scorpio shoves Cody off, and finally the donut goes to its rightful owner, Scorpio Sky. He gets a match on Wednesday night for the TNT Championship
against Mr. If Darby survives the street fight, Darby has to survive the street
in a
fight
medical facility.
Yes, so this ladder match wasn't. There was some stupid spots overall for a ladder match. I didn't mind it. I can put away some of the goofiness and got past it. I guess probably because we look up at at some of the other goofy shit we've gone through on the card. And at least it kind of made sense it made sense for who won 100%.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And the big spots that happened were entertaining, and there was some bullshit in between.
At this point, we get a little package showcasing Big Show, hyping up the Hall of Fame caliber signee that AEW is getting. And we already spoke on this, so we'll just go ahead and say it. Christian comes out, looks around, comes to the middle of the ring, keeps his trap shut because Khan wants his first words to be spoken on national TV, signs his contract in the middle of the ring, and makes his exit.
Don't forget, he shows
Christian Cage.
He shows his new shirt that's available at ProWrestlingTees.com. Outwork everybody or something along those lines.
So Paul White's tees, which Paul White has a new shirt too, says "No more BS bullshit, Big Show."
I see what they did there.
Christian Cage's new shirt says "Outwork everyone," and Big Show's tees for the new signee was "Nobody can outwork him."
Ooh.
I don't get what the appeal of this tagline is. Do you, Brian?
I don't. I think they just came up with a tagline for him, and it's what they're running with.
It's like being the best bagger at fucking Trader Joe's.
Now,
well, that guy can really bag groceries.
This is the dumb part that I thought where AEW kind of messed up. So Ethan Page was a surprise in that match, right? He was a surprise entrant. He's a new signee, right?
Right.
So, and then as soon as this ends, I believe it was right after this, they go to commentary, and they're like, whoa, we got a lot more to go. Plus, we still got our big surprise of our new signee. Why didn't they just sell it over like Ethan Page was the big signee? To really go over
some people
on the big signee.
Right.
So like they could have been like, whoa, man, our big surprise, Big Show coming strong with Ethan Page. Wow, we didn't see that coming. And then they could have teased with the Big Show or Paul White to say, that's not my guy. That's not the scoop I got. I got a bigger scoop. That's a pretty big one. I got a bigger one. They could have sold it. Sell me. But they said, nope, we got you $50. We'll just tell you everything and move on. They should have just came out and read the results. This thing could have been over in 12 minutes. Like they didn't sell it to me to buy the pay-per-view last week on Wednesday. They didn't, and then after you bought it, they didn't give you anything for buying it.
I don't know.
Yeah,
that could have been just your fantasy booking off the top of your head makes way more sense than what they actually did with it. But hindsight is always 20/20. But still, yeah, it was wasted potential in this pay-per-view all over the place.
Or just ignored the fact inside at the commentary that there was still a signee to happen. We still got a lot more coming for you, folks. Stick with us here. This is big. Ba 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 ba. And then been like, oh my gosh. So, anyways, Christian Cage comes out. He signs. Bingo bango. There you go.
Now, do you think Christian Cage is gonna make a huge impact, for no pun intended, for AEW, or do you think he's just gonna be a fart in the wind, another one of the fellas in the locker room?
I don't know. He has the potential to be big stuff and to help with the company. It's not the first time he's jumped ship from WWE. Remember, many years ago, a good 10 plus, he jumped and went back to Christian Cage and jumped over to Impact for several years.
TNA at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And was the dude over there for a minute. In the title,
he was a big dude over there.
In the title picture run, doing the whole nine. So he has the possibility to be the guy, to be a guy. I know he had an injury that took him out for a while. Supposedly he's, better and cleared, obviously, you would assume these days. This isn't the 80s and 90s anymore where they're going, get in the ring! But my vertebrae's fallen out. I don't care! But, so yeah, I think he can be, but only time will tell, man. Only time will tell what they allow him to do and what's done.
Now, I think I spoke on something similar to this last week where we talked about Big Show and how he's just going to be another one of the guys. And I'm starting to get a glimmer of hope with Christian Cage's signing here. Because I think if you get enough guys in there, that they don't have to be legends. They don't all have to be 45, 50 years old. But if you get enough guys in there who've had proper training and who know ring psychology and they know how to make a match logical, at some point it has the potential to click to where those guys aren't necessarily outnumbered by the independent mud show circus freaks. At some point they will be able to influence. Whereas if Jericho on his own, even though he's a legend and a star, when he was the only guy in there who knew what he was doing, him and Cody Rhodes, they're severely outnumbered. Everybody just wants to goof off and do their spots, Yeah. But I think as they raise this number of people who know what the fuck they're doing, they may be able to have some influence on this company.
I think so. And I think it'll be like a herd immunity. You just get enough people to get vaccinated, and there you go. You don't have to worry about it anymore. But yeah, no, you have enough guys in the ring, or in the business, in this company, they will take care of it. It'll just have to happen. You're going to have Christian Cage fight Hangman, Adam Page. And I wasn't even going with our joke we were making earlier. I just picked, an amazing wrestler versus an amazing wrestler. Even John Moxley, Christian, Hangman, Kenny Omega to an extent. I know everybody love or hate Kenny. He's a big match guy, especially for this company. So you're just going to start to mix these guys in together, and they have to they're going to put on a better show, and they're going to lift it up and either make everybody else look like garbage below them, or the garbage is going to go, oh, we got to tighten our game up and move with them.
So, a couple things on this. You touched on Christian Cage and Kenny Omega. Christian did an interview a couple years ago and specified Kenny Omega, that he fantasizes about working with Kenny Omega because he feels like he could get such a good match out of him, because Kenny is a very athletic guy. And so I think that's something we're potentially going to see very soon. And Kenny has the athleticism, and he's been in the business long enough. He's just so fucking stubborn. But I think if he got in there and let Christian lead the match, and dude, that could be a great match. And don't gimmick the shit up with fucking exploding chairs and
smoke bombs,
spike-studded dildos,
I think too that the faith I have with Christian is that he wants to work. Right? He could have stayed at WWE and done whatever he was doing. Occasionally got involved in a match, been here and there, and been in the back and whatever. He could have still collected his paycheck. But he wants to be in the ring and work. So I'm assuming in his contract is stating, I want big matches, I want to face these guys, and I'm going to raise the caliber of this shit. Not in literal terms, I'm saying, but that's what he's going to go there for, is to put on shows. not just to go dick around, which I didn't.
Right.
So I think I have big hopes that he's going to do that.
And that is a huge defining line between the way Vince's promotion is ran and the way Tony Khan's promotion is ran. For instance, another news story that I forgot to slip in the news here. There is now a sign posted at the gorilla position at WWE that every performer has to read before they go through the curtain that says no leg slaps. You will be fined set amount of dollars if we see you doing a leg slap.
NXT must be broke.
Yeah. So at WWE, you can't even leg slap. But at AEW, it's a normal thing to do a Canadian destroyer into a tope suicida off of the top rope and through a pit of sharks and barbed wire.
Vince is going, don't slap your leg, homie.
Do you get what I'm saying there?
Yes.
Like the amount of discipline and strictness on trying to make the shit look somewhat real, it's night and day.
Night and day. No question. Yeah, Vince says don't slap your leg, and these guys are allowed to kind of just do whatever they want. They're running down the same path WCW ran down, and that's the scary part, where WCW fell apart. There's an interview with Chris Jericho where he talks about how him and Chavo thought it would be funny to start that Pepe thing. I don't know if you remember watching WCW, the Pepe, where they ride that stupid wooden horse around the ring. And
I don't remember Pepe.
Chavo would ride this. Remember those horses with the stick that came out of the head? And it had like the stuffed animal horse head. Well, there was one called Pepe, and he'd ride it around the ring, and it was a thing. Well, they replaced one under the ring, but they didn't tell anybody. They just went and bought stuff and put their gimmicks under the ring for their match, and then had their match. And then when he went to WWE, he was like, oh, everything has to be organized and planned. Jericho's like, we just went and bought stuff and would stick it under the ring in the middle of the afternoon, so it was there for our match, and then we would use it. They didn't tell production. They didn't tell producers. They just stuck shit there and used it later. And unfortunately, that's the path we're running down, and then that path did not work previously, and it's not going to work again.
Right. So, yeah, well said. So, yeah, that puts us a scary look at the future in front of us. So, hopefully, with enough legends, with enough experienced performers coming into this company, we can steer away from the oncoming train.
Right. Well, we did all that to tell you that Christian Cage signed with AEW, ladies and gentlemen. Christian Cage signs with AEW. Now we move into Darby Allin and Sting taking on Team Taz, Brian Cage and Ricky Starks, at in a street fight. Now, did you have any inkling in your brain, Mr. Eric Todd, that this was going to be a cinematic match leading into this?
No. I envisioned that the street fight from the Schmuck Taylor and whatever, from back where they had a circle of cars on one of the shows. That's what I imagined the street fight to be, like a backlot brawl.
Sure.
I did not expect a cinematic match.
Because they, in AEW fashion, they just called it a street fight. So we thought street fight. AEW names things. So this should have been the warehouse extravaganza discount blowout sale. I don't know.
It's better than what they gave us.
Yeah, street fight. This didn't even take place in a street. There was not a street to be seen.
The only street we saw was the one Darby Allin was skateboarding down because apparently he couldn't afford an Uber or at least catch a ride with Sting in his 88 pickup truck.
Sting wouldn't let him in. I like how Taz buried him in that. He goes, and obviously, going against Team Taz, so he's like, you think with all the money this guy made over the years, he could buy a nicer truck.
I loved it. I love when Taz does that shit, JR does that shit, where they just slip in little jabs, and I love it.
Yeah, so I was disappointed when it was a whatchamacallit match there, like cinematic match. I didn't care for that. What'd you think?
I was disappointed that it was a cinematic match, but this is probably the best cinematic match that I've seen so far. I know there's not a lot to choose from, but way better than the fucking Swamp Monster match between Braun Strowman and The Fiend. And in my opinion, better than AJ Styles and Undertaker last year at WrestleMania.
Yeah, it wasn't. I just was disappointed that that's what it was.
Now, just because it's the best cinematic match I've seen
Doesn't mean you
it's
liked
good.
it. Yeah, I know that. I know that. I'm not putting words in your mouth. I'm gonna clip that and quote it. This is the best cinematic match I've seen.
I love it. I can't wait to sign up. So, we start off hot. We got Brian Cage and Ricky Starks driving their lime green sports car to the prison or warehouse or abandoned elementary school, whatever the fuck this thing is. And then you got Darby skateboarding and Sting driving his old pickup truck.
And then
And
the Pied Piper of wannabe Stings sitting around the streets.
yes, I got right here in my next note. We got an army of Stingalos escorting Sting to the ring through the warehouse. And there's also a wrestling ring in this warehouse, Brian.
Yes, there is. I mean, where else would you put a wrestling ring in a street fight? I'd put a wrestling ring in a street fight in a warehouse is where I would put it.
Now, this is another thing. So I said I was disappointed it was a cinematic match, but it was the best cinematic match I've seen. When I saw a wrestling ring in a street fight, I was like, what the fuck? But thank God there was a wrestling ring in the street fight because that's where the best action happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this thing is just awkward thanks to the commentary team. It starts out like an actual match in the ring, but Taz, Shivani, JR, and Excrement are doing live commentary on this.
It was taking me a second to figure out if it was live commentary or not, and then I figured it out. Yes, live commentary is another live commentating on a pre-recorded taped match. That just seems like it's going to throw off your timing, but
it just feels so awkward. Like they taped this thing at least a week or two ago for editing purposes because this thing was so heavily edited with the camera changes and the drone views and all that stuff. So these guys are commentating like they haven't seen any of these guys since the match took place.
I'm almost thinking they didn't even see the match.
They may have not seen the match. I'll give them that. But that Taz has spoken to Ricky Starks and Brian Cage since they filmed that match. But he acts all worried about them. Same thing with Sting and Darby. JR's concerned.
No, it was taking place right there.
That's what I'm getting. So it's just so fucking awkward to hear him commentating on this thing. We start out with a couple separate brawls here, and in the ring, Sting's moving pretty well. I always say 68, but I think he's legitimately 63, right?
Somewhere in there, probably.
Yeah. But the only thing is just AEW makes me want to question everything. Sting's looking pretty decent in the ring, but how many takes did it take? Did they do 42 takes and 32 camera changes to get a Stinger splash to look good in the ring?
Yeah, that was Andy, friend of the show. Saw him on the internet. I think it was on a WrestleZone comment on Facebook. They said, Sting still got it, looking great in the ring. And his comment on Facebook was, yeah, well, it's easy to look good in the ring for a 12-hour shoot in a cinematic match.
Right. You and I could look like goddamn Luchasaurus versus Ray Phoenix, if you give us 12 hours in a handy cam.
Handy cam.
But it wasn't just the editing and multiple shoots here, but Ricky Starks. You gotta give all credit where credit's due. Ricky Starks makes Sting look like $1 million. that kid, I love that fucking kid, man. He's gonna do great
He is, as long as AEW doesn't gobble him up.
as long as he doesn't get AEW'd. Correct.
He gets A&W and gets that AEW stink on him.
Now, at some point in this match, you get some outside interference. You get a giant man in an orange ski mask, which and he comes in and he's attacking Darby Allin. And at this point, Tony Schiavone is just unbearable. They're wondering who this guy is, this giant black man who has the physique of fucking Biggie Langston. Who could it be?
Who could it be? It couldn't be Powerhouse Hobbs, could it?
Schiavone says, it's a member of your team, a powerful one. And then Hobbs takes his mask off, and Schiavone's surprised. It's Powerhouse Hobbs. No idea.
Well, I mean, I give...
He thought it was fucking Kodak Black.
And then you get Hook comes in and surprises them too. And they were so surprised it was Hook.
So at this point, Tony Schiavone's already unbearable. And now he thinks that his gimmick that seems to work so well with the AEW audience by screaming, it's Sting, he thinks that's transferable to any performer who enters a match at any point.
So
because
Hook!
And he can't even do that right, Brian. He screamed, it's Hawk.
It's Hawk.
It's Hawk. It's Hawk. And fucking, I expected Hawk and Animal both to just rise from the dead. Legion of zombies that come interfere in this match.
Oh, shit.
But yeah, we got the entire team Taz, besides Taz, because he's doing live commentary, jumping Darby Allin. And they do a little, I'm sure you've done this with your friends. We did it with ours. The little, I'll hold his hands, you hold his feet, and we'll swing him and throw him. And they throw Darby through a glass window here.
And knowing Darby, that was no gimmicks needed.
I wouldn't put it past him. Just throw me through the real thing. I don't want it to look like sugar glass.
And then from there we move on to beating up Sting and just chasing him back downstairs. Right? Are we moving there?
At some point, Sting throws his baseball bat away because Ricky Starks tells him that you ain't shit without your bat. And so we're chasing Sting around, and we're back to Sting and Ricky Starks, and Darby is up in the second floor or third floor, where the hell they are, and he tosses Sting his trusty baseball bat, and Sting is back in the mix.
Yeah, they were really beating the shit out of Sting on the way down. A good old Passion of the Christ beating on the way down. I mean, they were just whooping him. Everybody was taking their shots at him, and then all he needed to get stingerized was a baseball bat. Sting, catch! Oh, shit, he missed. Sting, catch! Oh, shit, he missed. Take 12.
Darby's out for the count as he goes through the window, and yeah, Team Taz has to focus on somebody. So they focus on the senior citizen, and but once he gets that baseball bat, it's all over. Sting's back in the mix, and he hits Team Taz with the most ginger bat strikes I've ever seen in my life. There was no momentum, no power behind these bat strikes. And we find out why when he finally hits Brian Cage over the back with his baseball bat, and it's made out of cornflakes. It has to be. It just breaks.
Ramen noodles. The internet loves ramen noodles these days.
Yes. This thing was sawed in half, put back together with ramen noodles, and then he broke it over Brian Cage's back. So, yeah.
Now, what about doing something similar a la WrestleMania 13, I want to say? Roddy Piper and Goldust. Remember the Hollywood backyard or backstage brawl that they had?
Yeah.
Remember how that ended? So they started out at that back lot, and then they had the little car chase, right? And they were they were teasing that O.J. Simpson shots there and all that jazz. And then it ended in the ring. Now, you know that was pre-taped at the lot, and then they were cued. Okay, it looks like you're here. Work your way into the ring and go forward, right? What about working in some cinematic matches that way where it looks they start at point A and then it ends back in the ring?
I think that would have made this match way more interesting. Now, that's not something you could do. Well, how often are you going to get a cinematic street fight match? But yeah, if they would have turned it into Brian Cage and Ricky Starks chasing Sting's pickup truck back to Jacksonville, and
They
a
come
couple shots here, a couple shots there, and then they run through the parking lot. They use the Moxley entrance and finish up the match in the arena. I think that would have been sick as hell.
Right, they could have spaced this out. They could have actually had this start. I'm looking over here at the card, like after the Miro match, maybe, or after Hangman, and then they go to the ladder match. And as they're going, well, we don't know whatever happened to that street fight. We'll fill you more in on Wednesday. They, quote, are setting up for the exploding match, and boom, you're interrupted with them zipping in and ending up at Jacksonville at Daly's place, and then finishing the match there as they fight through the crowd and into the ring and blah, blah, blah. Just a thought as we were talking about it.
Yeah, we're fantasy booking. We're no better than Tony Khan at this point. We don't have $1 billion to work with.
That we don't.
So yeah, Darby Allin has to get his shit in. What was there a reason for this 25-foot elbow drop out of the third story window?
Because you can.
Oh, okay. Yeah, just making sure. And Ricky Starks and Sting are back in the ring. So we started out strong with these two, and we're going to end strong with these two. Stinger hits Stark with the Scorpion Death Drop here, and 1, 2, 3 right in the middle of the ring. Stinger gets the win.
Stinger gets the win. Brian Cage and Darby Allin have fallen to the depths of hell. Taz doesn't care and wraps up his commentary duties for the night and heads on back to catering.
Doesn't even care. His son got beat half to death with a baseball bat.
He wasn't going to find him or anything.
No.
Wasn't worried to the least. I didn't like that it was a cinematic match. I thought it could have been a street fight. It could have just been out in the back, like literally in a parking lot, put up, and they could have just beat the hell out of each other and told basically the same story. But cinematic took me right out of it. 100%. I'm done with these. It's been a full year of cinematic bullshit that's kind of looped in and out through this last from, March of last year to March of this year, and I'm done with it. COVID's over, and so are cinematic matches.
Au contraire, cinematic matches appear to be over indeed, but over as in they're popular. People love this shit.
I guess.
And I don't get it.
We're the outsiders.
Yeah.
We're the 1% who doesn't.
I'm over them, but they're over. And unfortunately, I think we're going to keep seeing them even when arenas are packed again and you can throw your masks away.
That's going to be the weird part for me, is when there's full arenas and how they're going to continue to pull it off if they can. But we will see. We will see. Sting and Darby Allin, they win. Woohoo. What it was worth, I don't know. Darby Allin had to kill himself to win. He had to disappear into the depths of hell. But don't worry, folks. He'll be back on Wednesday.
Absolutely.
With no mention of it. We move on to Kenny Omega with Don Callis taking on Jon Moxley. Jon Moxley.
Yeah, right here.
In an exploding barbed wire death match.
First note, somebody please remove Justin Roberts' vocal cords with a crowbar.
The only thing that I was happy about is that they didn't do Kenny Omega's, he's held this many matches. He can speak Japanese and he can also speak Polish. He likes grilled cheeses, and he once drove through North Carolina. They skipped all that bullshit and they just said, your defending champion Kenny Omega, and fighting John Moxley. Of course, it was overdone still there with their names, but the overlong intro for Kenny was pushed aside.
I feel like he drug out the word Omega just as long as if he would have did the North Carolina intro. And then my very next note, the referee is literally wearing a hazmat suit.
They oversold that so big, and then like the commentary was like everything had to be sprayed with fire retardant chemicals, and Bryce Remsburg has to wear this uniform, and over top of it, and they're just everybody's safety and blah blah blah. And it's like, oh boy.
All right, now this. I'm curious, Brian. So Kenny Omega has been working on this Moxley killer match, swinging a hammer like a working man, and he's got his little leather apron on, and he's been working hard all week to put this ring together.
Almost 2 weeks, yeah.
And then when we look at it, there's just some barbed wire and firecrackers on the ropes, and then a couple pieces of plywood with barbed wire stapled to them. So Omega's definitely getting paid by the hour on that, huh?
and only barbed wire on 3 sides of the ring because they needed one side to still work off of.
Right. So yeah, because Omega's got to use his happy feet. You can't have bombs going off when he needs to do springboard jack off twists.
Plancha suicidas. I mean, for the love of Pete, what would we do? So yes, 3 sides in a death match. One side was not deathly. It was very safe, very sound. Kenny Omega, John Moxley, barbed wire match. I had 0 hopes for this.
It was just going to be a complete shit show, and any believability. So I take this back to 1995, 96, watching, thanks to the Insane Clown Posse for bootlegging these videos and doing commentary over them. But that was my exposure to Japanese death matches with exploding barbed wire and broken glass and all this shit.
The old Stranglemanias.
Yeah. Stranglemania makes this look like kindergarten daycare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
with Cactus Jack and Terry Funk and the Headhunters and all those guys that were in those Japanese matches.
Yeah, if you can get your hands on a copy of Stranglemania, check it out.
It's probably on YouTube.
That's what Japanese death matches are. This wasn't it. And Don Callis drives the point home by immediately, I don't even think the match started at this point, refers to the explosives in this match as effects. Oh, we're going to see some of these effects.
I noticed that too, and that really, again, takes you out of it.
Yeah, it's almost like Callis is trying to sabotage them here. That's how deliberate it seems.
Some of these illusions.
Now, there were some good parts of this match to go along with a lot of bad ones. They actually start out with some decent wrestling because Omega has a very small canvas to paint with. So they got to work close. They got to work tight. And it actually looks pretty decent. And they do a great job with the teases. Every now and then you assume somebody's going to get exploded, but they stop or slide right at the last minute.
I like the storytelling I did like that, with the storytelling of them not wanting to hit the barbed wire right away, not wanting to get exploded on, which all makes sense. Who wants to get hit with barbed wire and have an explosion go off in your back? Not me.
Right.
Doesn't sound like a fun time. But, after a while, you knew you were just, because then it just teased and made you wait and want to see it. You just, come on, when's it going to happen? And when those first ones hit, you were like, well, that was pretty cool.
Right. So they tease about the explosives, but the payoff doesn't come with somebody getting exploded. The payoff in this aspect is Omega getting thrown over the top rope back onto the ramp. And that's where we have a garbage can full of gimmicks. And that's where John Moxley, in an exploding barbed wire death match, uses a barbed wire wrapped baseball bat so gently on Kenny Omega. I would think by saying the word death match, you're implying that you would like to hurt somebody.
Yeah.
But he just kind of batter rams gently the end of this barbed wire baseball bat and in Kenny Omega's tummy. And
I'd
don't
rather
even think
not
he
see
left
the
a bruise.
gimmicks if you're not going to use them. And even in a and I get you're not really going to mollywop somebody with a barbed wire baseball bat.
Use a gimmicked one. They make foam baseball bats.
But at least come at me with like a little bit, right? You can hit me with it. All right, if we're going in and this is the main event, Eric, me and you, and it's a barbed wire match and there's a barbed wire baseball bat. All right, hit me in the gut, but, give me a good 20% and make it look real. At least 20, right? Don't ginger it or don't do it.
Right. At least swing the thing like a fucking baseball bat. Why have a barbed wire baseball bat if you're just going to tap them in the stomach with the end of it, not utilizing the fact that it's a baseball bat, not utilizing the fact that it's wrapped in barbed wire? I just didn't get it at this point.
Didn't get it. I agree with you on that. I just didn't care. This match did not draw me in. I'm going to be honest with you. Nothing in this pay-per-view drew me in. I wasn't 100% like geeked to watch this. Usually I'm like, cool, wrestling pay-per-view. Let's sit down and hang out and watch some wrestling. And it was like, it happened, and I got through it. The whole thing, top to bottom. And I didn't care. I just didn't care.
It took me 2 days to watch this thing.
Well, hey, cool. We're in the same club.
Eventually, we do get our first explosion of the match because Kenny Omega throws some powder into John Moxley's eyes. And that's where we get it. When John Moxley's blind and has Johnson & Johnson baby powder in his eyes, that's when he starts swinging the baseball bat like a baseball bat. But obviously he's not trying to hit anybody because we don't want to hurt anybody in a exploding barbed wire death match.
We wouldn't want that, you silly goose. You silly goose.
Mox misses him a few times with the bat. Omega shoots him into the ropes, and we get our first explosion. And I wasn't really impressed with the explosions.
It gave you a little bit of some sound and a visual aspect to them hitting barbed wire is what it was for me. Because when somebody hits barbed wire in a barbed wire match, it's so thin, right, that you don't really take into what's happening on the mat or like inside it. You're like, especially in the crowds and such. So now you can give a visualization to it. So it makes sense for me on that to have it, but it wasn't like I thought somebody really got hurt.
Right.
It was just like a alert that something happened. It wasn't like, oh my God, his arm blew off. They didn't even grab the body parts after they hit it, and then it exploded on like 4 parts of the ring too, right? It was like these quote explosions go off. So for me, effects. It added the effect to of them hitting the barbed wire rope.
Well, so one thing I was pleasantly surprised with is the ropes had multiple explosions. I was under the impression I was fully expecting once you hit the ropes once, the explosions are done. But we actually get a couple explosions on some of these ropes here. So that was actually a decent surprise here.
Yes, we got several of them. And then I always hate the barbed wire stapled to a piece of plywood.
Yeah, and that was another disappointment for me because I was expecting another explosion. They didn't do anything to imply to me that there would be a bomb on the plywood, but I was expecting an explosion when John Moxley got thrown through that plywood.
I 100% would have been fine if this was just a barbed wire death match and they left the word explosion out of it. Because you're not buying the explosion. I buy the barbed wire. I've seen it. Like, I've seen good barbed wire matches. They're idiots. These guys are morons. Get Hardcore Homecoming with Shane Douglas pay-per-view that he put together a few years back. Go watch that. Watch Sabu in ECW when he goes and takes one around the neck. Like, these guys did some moronic things with barbed wire, and they take some hot ones. So I can buy that in a match. But this, with the explosions, I didn't care for them. I didn't care for it because you're not going to buy it. it wasn't the
And what
it wasn't the impressive part to me. Add some thumbtacks to it and some barbed wire, and let's see some bleeding and some silver thumbtacks sticking out of the back of somebody's head.
what really drove the point what really drove the point home with how fake the explosions were, Kenny Omega is wearing an icy white t-shirt, fresh out of the package. This thing
Was
is
a pretty cool
bright.
shirt though.
Oh, it's a badass shirt, but it's icy white, not a stain on it. And Omega hits the ropes twice, and explosions go off, and there's not even any soot or burn
No
or
yellow marking.
nothing on that shirt. You could have threw a match at him, and it would have had more effect on his shirt than these explosions.
Very true. The only thing they got on that was after Moxley's head got bladed up a little bit, and he was pumping blood after his shot of Jack that he took before the match to thin his blood out.
Yeah, that was about Omega was covered in blood and Moxley's blood at that point. We get the spot of the night here, another Botchamania move where Mox and Omega are on the ring apron. Moxley decides he's going to give Omega the old paradigm shift off the edge of the ring into a huge box of barbed wire right here. And Omega takes a little bit of bump, but ends up just safely out on the wrestling mats there.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, John Moxley, who is supposed to be giving the move, is just tangled up like a goddamn fly in a spider web, wrapped in barbed wire.
I think that's because Moxley will take it and Kenny doesn't want to, was my impression in the head. Like, somebody's got to go in this shit. And it's the only way they can make it make sense. Again, it didn't make sense. Why would I dive into that?
And another thing that didn't make sense is Excalibur.
Well,
God, Excalibur is such a mark. All right. And I quote, the two best wrestlers in the world are risking it all. I feel like that sentence in itself is an oxymoron. Would, in fact, the two best wrestlers in the world have anything to do with an exploding barbed wire death match? How many exploding wrestling rings have you seen Bret Hart in?
Shawn
or
Michaels.
Ric Flair or The Rock
Ricky
or Shawn
Steamboat.
Michaels? How many exploding barbed wire matches have those guys been in?
0 between all of them.
Yes. That's because excrement reads Meltzer's newsletter like it's porn and just eats it all up. He's playing a game of Ookie Cookie with Dave Meltzer's newsletter and just eating it all up. And excrement is under the impression that John Moxley, the WWE Nexus reject, Dean Ambrose, and Kenny Omega, who can't even hit the ropes correctly and keep his feet straight without triple dancing and getting his steps all mixed up. These are the two best wrestlers in the world.
Best wrestlers in AEW. You could at least give them that. Like, you know what I'm saying, to kind of minimize. Most popular.
There we go. Yeah, even Chris Jericho, 30 pounds overweight and 51 years old, still a better wrestler than both of these guys. But Kenny Omega hits a one-winged angel on Moxley. Moxley gets his foot on the ropes and triggers an explosion right in Kenny Omega's face, causing the pen to get interrupted. That was a good spot.
I didn't mind that at all. I was hoping you weren't going to shit on it because I didn't want to have to argue with you and defend that it was a good spot because it was good and it made sense. Because still, guess what they can say? Nobody's ever kicked out of the one-winged angel.
Correct. And excrement lets us know 34 times that, again, nobody ever kicks out of the one-winged angel.
Kenny sold it very well that as the explosion goes off in his face and all that. I thought that part worked very well. I didn't mind that at all.
It was a pleasant surprise I did not expect that. I didn't see it coming. And just who would think that Moxley just laying his foot on the bottom rope would trigger an explosion in Omega's face. So I think that added to the surprise. So yeah, good job. Whoever wrote that spot.
Nobody kicks out from the one-winged angel. Dun dun dun. We move on. Man, I just overall, still, just say it again, didn't care for it.
Things pick up here. Moxley gets his hands back on his beloved barbed wire baseball bat, and the Good Brothers decide they make an appearance.
Of course.
Because you can't just leave some shit alone. You got to always sprinkle more bullshit sprinkles on top of the bullshit sundae here. And
they bring out a
so
super
again.
They bring out the super bat, right?
Well, the super bat hasn't made its entrance yet. The Good Brothers come in, or did they bring it with them?
I thought they brought it with them.
Maybe they did, but Moxley just kayfabe beats the living shit out of these guys. Omega won't take a barbed wire bump. He won't take a barbed wire baseball bat decent hit. But the Good Brothers, they took it.
Let's go.
About as well as you could. Moxley, it looked like he was beating the living shit out of these guys, and they actually stayed down and sold it for a while.
Yeah, I thought that he came in and they took some beatings and it was okay. I just wish that again that it was just a match. Why do you got to add more stuff to it, more running? And it wasn't even a surprise. The Good Brothers. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't like, oh my God, the Good Brothers. Like it was, hey, look, these guys again.
Run-ins and gimmicks. Just fill this match up with as much bullshit as you can. Kenny Omega drills Moxley in the face with the super barbed wire baseball bat, which, surprise, surprise, has a bomb in it. So visually, that was kind of cool.
Yeah. But the fact that was their big surprise for the night, because even Don Callis on commentary goes, that was our big surprise.
And Mox sold it well.
Yeah, I need a cricket sound effect.
The Good Brothers join the match again, and a chair is set up in the middle of the ring, and we get another one-winged angel from Kenny Omega driving Mox through the setup chair, and that's the conclusion of the official match, which they concluded about 5 minutes early somehow.
And the timer is still going off. Now, there was going to be a big ring explosion that they kept warning about. There was a 10-minute warning, but they didn't put a clock up. That was also the gimmick, too. They didn't know when. They didn't have a clock, so you could tell the time of when this explosion. You got warnings and sound effects. And then the alarm goes off, and then finally it comes to a 60-second countdown after they continue beating up Moxley and handcuffing him and hog-tying him in the ring and leaving him to die and explode in the ring.
So they should have had a clock up throughout this match for the countdown to win it, because I genuinely believe they wrapped up the match too early. Or they thought it was later than it was, or I don't know, because that whatever it was. Here, I lost myself in the sauce there, thinking there was an actual timer on these effects. The whole thing, the 5 minutes after Omega pinned him, where they're just kind of filling time with beating up and hog tying Moxley, like you said, was just so drawn out and stupid.
Well, the fact that they didn't have a timer and a clock up counting down for the explosion also could have worked in their benefit. But no, AEW has to keep it true to form. This was a 10-minute countdown. So if anybody keeping track at home, they had to know that this 10 minutes had passed. They could have lied to us. It's like when I tell my kids it's time for bed and they ask for 15 more minutes and I just say yeah. Then 3 minutes later I tell them it's time to go to bed and tell them it's been 15 minutes. That's all they need to know. So all they need to do is get through the stuff, have Kenny walk out, and then put the countdown up, the final seconds of the countdown. It didn't have to be true to time.
Yeah. Well, whatever it was goofy and contrived as horse shit. And anyway, we hit our 1 minute timer, and you still got the Good Brothers and Kenny Omega just wandering around the ring, and good old JR Are these guys stupid? Yes, JR.
Just leave it at that. Just put a period.
Yes, JR. These guys are stupid, in fact.
But who comes out to save the day?
Eddie Kingston, John Moxley's old friend, old nemesis, buddy old pals from Japan and beyond, comes out to save his old friend.
And he's trying to wake up Johnny, get John Moxley up, wake him up, shake him up.
Wake up, Johnny. Wake up. And he can't wake up Mox, so he just covers him up. He's
3,
sacrificing his body.
2,
He's making
1.
the ultimate sacrifice. We're expecting some sort of explosion. We know they can't set off live grenades in C4, which I think at some point Don Callis said they checked all the C4 beforehand. But we know this thing isn't going to explode like a fucking landmine. But we end up getting 4 sparklers, a couple black cats, a whistling bunghole, and a nipadazer with a scooter stick. And that's about the end of the big explosion that concludes this match.
And my jaw dropped. I sat there. If you're not watching this on YouTube, join us on YouTube, like and follow. And then you can also see I literally sat there like this by myself in my living room, and I went in silence. Not even like meaning to, it just emotion took over. My face, my jaw just opened up. I went, and I gasped, and I said, "Oh my God, that's the end of it." And then Kingston, God bless him, he went out there to sell this thing. And John Moxley, and they weren't really watching. And I don't know if they didn't know what to do, and they just stuck with the plan. They should have called an audible. But they just laid there, and he laid there covering up John Moxley, and Eddie laid over top of him until they went off the pay-per-view.
Yeah, Eddie's just laying across him, and in my head, I'm just so confused because it's either because he wasn't watching and he just heard pops, he thought there was more to it than there was, or he thought they were going to add some shit in post-production or something. I don't know. But Kingston sold it like he was shell-shocked from fucking Vietnam. And this, they need to go off air. It wasn't like a WWE where it's precisely timed to 3 hours or 4 hours or whatever. This was just whenever they wanted to end. They should have went off air, and they just stayed with it. And you had AEW doctors and referees and shit checking on Kingston, just laying there motionless and not knowing what to say. And they just stayed on it.
And stayed on it.
Go off air.
It was bad. And then if you listen closely, go back and listen again, you can hear that there's some chants from the crowd that this is stupid and that was shitty. I'm
going to have to go back and watch it.
They were not happy.
No. And I don't remember which one of the it has to be excrement. Let's blame it on him. Mox may not have regained the title tonight, but he regained a friend. Aw.
Aw. I mean, anyways, that explosion was terrible. However they could have done it. I know they weren't going to explode the ring and blow it up. And, there were some tweets and comments that went out, and Tony Khan spoke to the Wrestling Observer and said, "What did you want from me? Did you want us to really," I'm paraphrasing, "to really blow up the ring? Do you really want us to set off explosions?"
So, yeah, Tony Khan here, I just pulled a piece of his quote here, says, "I don't know what people expected outside of blowing guys up." And nobody believes him. They're playing it off like this shit was done on purpose. They're eventually trying to roll it in the storyline where Kenny Omega just trolled everybody, but everybody knows it was just a fuck up. And Mick Foley even weighed in on it. Mick Foley has been in more death matches than fucking Kenny Omega's taken shits. And Mick Foley weighed in on his Facebook stating that he felt bad for Moxley and Omega. And instead of trying to play out the dud as the ending into a storyline, AEW should have just cut their losses, admitted that shit didn't go as planned, and then just move on to the next storyline.
Yeah.
But instead, Tony Khan has to focus on it here. And as we see rolling into Dynamite here, which we'll do in a second here, it just gets worse and worse. And I sent you a clip earlier. Do you have that clip, the YouTube clip, available?
I don't. I apologize.
All
I
right.
watched it myself.
I'll paraphrase here too. So these guys, all right, I might shit on Moxley and Omega more than Moxley, and I may have shit on this match, but by all means, both of these guys busted their asses. They got cut up, they bled, they took good bumps. A lot of work went into this match. A lot of work went into promoting this match. A lot of work went into the feud. And the point of this match was that these two guys wanted to kill each other. This match took place on March 7th. On March 8th, Tony Khan did a radio interview, and the host of the radio show asked him, what is the state of Moxley and Omega right now? One day later, and Tony Khan replies, I'm paraphrasing here, I don't have the quote in front of me. Oh, they're great. We're glad that nobody got hurt in this thing. Everything worked out well, and
thank God for Kenny's bad craftsmanship or something like that.
Yeah. Thank God for Kenny's bad craftsmanship, and nobody actually got hurt in this thing. And that's the last thing we want to see is somebody getting injured. The whole point of this match is to suspend disbelief and to make people think that these two motherfuckers want to murder each other.
And unfortunately, all you remember is the ending. Every botched match that there is, WWE, all the way WCW, whatever, if it's a botched ending, that's what you remember the match as. So unfortunately, this is what you remember the match as.
So you get the botched ending, which is going to be the highlight for whoever remembers this pile of shit pay-per-view. But then you've got Tony Khan. I just have to drive this home one more time. He's not just fucking up his own product, but by going on air the next day and saying that neither one of the guys were hurt or injured and they're both in great shape, he's completely discrediting all death matches. Well, if AEW's exploding barbed wire death matches is fake and they're all just having fun and nobody's getting hurt, then all of them must be fake. They all just it's probably rubber tipped barbed wire and foam baseball bats, and they're all just having fun. They're all just jerking each other off. Yeah. So
it left the stinking bad taste in my mouth. Boo. So that's all I had to say about that.
Thumbs down on this pay-per-view. It was a waste of 4 hours.
Yes. Speaking of 4 hours, we're pushing this biatch to 2.5 hours already. You want to hit anything from Dynamite highlights, and then we can let the people get on their way?
Yeah, just a couple. The big things from AEW Dynamite the following week here. Christian Cage was scheduled to make his Dynamite debut on Wednesday with a live interview, but Kenny Omega fucked that up. stole the show, came out and went on a rant about the end of Revolution. Eddie Kingston comes out and confronts him. Omega's mocking Eddie Kingston's. Eddie Kingston went and explained that he had anxiety and he froze up and
They have to try to make something out of what happened. I mean, it's just what you have to do.
why he froze. Omega makes fun of that, and that was a pretty funny spot there where Omega lays down and tells Don Callis to 69 him, mocking the Eddie Kingston saving John Moxley for nothing point. And then Christian eventually makes his entrance and makes it known he's coming after Kenny Omega's title.
Well, yeah, he's got a good record. I mean, it's all about records. So that, it's good deals. He's 0-0 in the company.
And then our other big story out of Wednesday night is Jericho and MJF teased a big change in the inner circle during the pay-per-view Revolution. And we get an answer to that question on Wednesday. Sammy Guevara comes back and MJF's trying to get Chris Jericho out of the inner circle. Guevara played some hidden camera footage of MJF plotting to give Chris Jericho a dirt nap. And
it looks like you're going to have Ortiz and Santana and Jake Hager do the big turn on Jericho.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. Looks like Jericho's out and MJF's the new leader. But
they all turn their back on MJF, and then then MJF cowers into the corner, true heel style.
Yep.
And he's just, no, Chris, it wasn't like that, Chris. It wasn't like that, Chris. And Jericho's saying how the inner circle sticks together and how they don't talk. You think we don't talk every day? Then MJF says, no, but do you think that was my only plan? And then the lights go out.
And when they come back on, we've got FTR, we've got Shawn Spears, we've got Wardlow, and we've got Tully Blanchard. And MJF has formed his own new faction. And the rumors are floating all over the place, even though there's 57 of them in the faction. This is the new Four Horsemen.
Yeah, well, I mean, the four wrestlers. Then you got Tully on the outside, and you got Wardlow. And that works a good angle. Future possibilities with Wardlow wanting in and actually being a member of a Four Horsemen faction and never being allowed in. So there's also something that could happen there. Pretty cool little click, and I think it'll be a fun gimmick to work out there. And then you got a big feud that they already got coming in with the four of them and taking on the Inner Circle feud. So,
and Jericho took a powerbomb from Wardlow. So we got a nice little spot in there too.
Yeah. I want to jump back. The thing I did like is Moxley and Eddie Kingston on the couch having a drink for their little promo thing. I thought that was pretty cool. It was just funny to see them work together like that, and they can just two good talkers and improvising. And the best to me, the thing that made me laugh, is when John Moxley goes, I could have used help a little earlier. Looking at Eddie Kingston, and he goes, but no. I got to get lined up. I got to get my line and my eyebrows and get my Timbs on before I come out and wrestle. And then Kingston goes, what do you want me to tell you? I'm 1998. I love that. That made me laugh.
So they're having fun with it, but just the fact that they should have just moved on. Why keep putting the spotlight on something that everybody knows was a fuck up?
I think that they can take it for what they're doing is not bad by kind of calling it out and taking an Eminem, Cheddar Bob style thing on it of like calling out the fuck up. But what they're not having is Kenny should be throwing a hissy fit. Kenny shouldn't be embracing it as well. Kenny should be going, it was supposed to, it was gonna, who messed up my plan? Somebody from John Moxley's family messed up my plan and unplugged it, or unplugged the pyros. Like, he should be throwing a hissy fit, and they should all be laughing at him like he's an idiot.
I mean, Renee Young was in attendance.
That's what I'm saying. So
maybe she cut the wire.
I think there was some angles that they could have done better that way, but kind of I don't see I'm not too mad at them for calling attention to it like it's a big fuck up because it was, so they're kind of laughing at it and moving on, and next week they probably won't even talk about it, so we can go from there. But they had to. I think they had to address it on Wednesday. They had to. In my eyes, I think they just had to do something with it and then move on. From now, it should be done.
Yeah, hopefully. We'll see. Only time will tell.
Only time will tell. Anything else you want to get at on here before we wrap it up for the week and get back into some wrestling next week?
No, sir. That's all my notes.
Yeah, there was nothing too big on Wednesday. Obviously the big shot. Oh, and Scorpio Sky got his title shot on Wednesday and didn't win.
Hell. So
all that hoopla and build up a new character. They didn't even carry it on for a couple weeks. He cashed it in 3 days later, lost it. All right, Scorpio Sky, back to dark with you.
True AEW fashion.
True
Make
AEW.
Story last 3 days.
We're done. All right, guys. Well, speaking of being done, we're done as well. So make sure you head on over to all of our social media platforms. Get onto Instagram, not our social media platforms, but where we do our work at. Not like I own Instagram. Made it sound like I own Instagram there. Make sure you head on over to Instagram, the KayFabe Smark on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Join us on YouTube. Like and subscribe. Let's get those subscribes. Hit the subscribe button. Click that right there. Join up on that. And then also make sure you head on over to audibletrial.com/thekayfabesmark. Get a free audiobook, free 30-day trial. Get all of that fun stuff. And Eric, what do you got for us?
Never forget that Brian Cage lost clean to Tessa Blanchard on Impact Wrestling. And other than that, hooty hoo, we out the gates.